Chapter 286. After Yunruoyan saved the real far-sighted king, the two of them locked the fake up in a cell then left the chamber. I heard you mention Li Mo earlier. What's your relationship with him? Li Xing asked Yunruoyan. He was sitting on a chair in the room, and although he was still dressed in rags, he exuded the aura of a king. He's my... Yunruoyan hesitated, not knowing how to respond. According to their agreement, Li Mo was supposed to go to the Yun Manor to ask for her hand in marriage. She didn't know if he was there, but he would surely be furious to see her absent. When Li Xing saw Yunruoyan's expression, he seemed to have guessed what she was thinking. He smiled. There's nothing to be shy about. Yunruo lowered her head at Li Xing's words. She didn't try to defend herself, but she tacitly agreed. Third brother is so lucky to have a beauty like you, Li Xing said. When I see him, I'll have to thank him properly. Your Highness, he's him and I'm me, Yunruoyan replied immediately. I'm the one who did all this, so you should thank me instead. Li Xing didn't expect Yunruoyan to say such a thing. He paused for a moment before bursting into laughter. In that case, how do you want me to thank you? I won't hide it from you, Your Highness. Yunruoyan bowed once more to Li Xing. I didn't come here specifically to save you, Your Highness. Rather, I'm here to look through the secret archives. I was just looking for the key to the archives, which is why I accidentally saved you. Yunruoyan paused for a moment before continuing. Other than that, I have another request. I'd like Physician Singh to accompany me on a trip. That's not a big problem. I can agree to it. Li Xing agreed to both of Yunruoyan's requests without any hesitation. Your Highness, there's one more thing I'm curious about. Of course, if you're unwilling to tell me, I won't press you any further. I know what you're going to ask. Li Xing sighed. Since you saved me from that beast, there's nothing I can't tell you. The far-sighted king told Yunruoyan that about 3 years ago, a group of demons had appeared on Mount Wu, wreaking havoc everywhere they went, causing great harm to the nearby citizens. Li Xing led the soldiers of the far-sighted king's estate in an attempt to exterminate the demons. In the end, they rescued a woman from the demon's cave. The woman was elegant and beautiful, so beautiful that no one could help but admire her. Li Xing wanted to send the woman home, but the woman cried and said that her parents had been eaten by demons and that she had no home to return to. Her sorrowful cries made one feel pity for her. The girl begged Li Xing to take her in. Li Xing softened and brought her back to the far-sighted king's estate. The woman stayed in the far-sighted king's mansion for half a year. One night when the moon was full, the woman invited Li Xing to drink wine and admire the moon. The two of them were so happy that they drank a few more cups, and then she revealed her true form. I've never seen such a large snake before. Its jade-green scales reflected the cold moonlight, but its eyes were blood-red. When it opened its mouth, its forked tongue was 5 feet long and it reeked of blood, Li Xing recalled, his voice still tinged with lingering fear. After that woman transformed into a snake, although I was frightened, I was still conscious. I wanted to kill her, but I wasn't her match. That's why I was captured by it and imprisoned here until you saved me today. Only then did Li Xing realize that this woman was actually the largest demon in the cave, a snake spirit with a high level of cultivation. Your Highness, there's something I'm curious about, Yunruoyan began. According to what you said, the snake spirit had a very high cultivation, but when I fought her, I didn't discover any powerful techniques. Even her spiritual energy cultivation was quite weak. The fact that the bewitching powder she had refined had no effect on the snake spirit meant that the snake spirit's cultivation had far surpassed hers. What an ill-fated relationship. Li Xing let out a long sigh. What he hadn't expected was that not only was the woman a serpent spirit in human form, but she was also a male serpent spirit. Even more unbelievably, the male serpent spirit had developed feelings for her. In order to hide the fact that Li Xing had been imprisoned, the snake spirit had taken on his appearance to deceive the world. Later on, the snake spirit obtained a kind of demonic technique. As long as it ate enough of the hearts of 81 young girls, combined with this demonic technique, not only could it shed its demonic fetus and become immortal, it could also change from male to female. Li Xing said that the snake spirit had already consumed more than 80 hearts, and that the demonic technique had reached its final stage. As a result, its body had begun to take on some of the characteristics of a woman. Moreover, its demonic aura and spiritual energy had begun to weaken, and it was on the verge of becoming immortal. Although its cultivation wasn't low, its spiritual energy had been depleted by the demonic technique. I see, Your Highness. How do you intend to deal with it? This beast has harmed the innocent, so of course it must be killed, Li Xing declared decisively. Your Highness, there's one more thing that I'm not sure if the snake spirit has mentioned to you. What is it? Miss Yun, please feel free to speak your mind. Do you know that the snake spirit is planning a rebellion in your name, Your Highness? Yun Ruoyan carefully observed Li Xing's expression as she asked this question. Li Xing's expression was clearly unnatural, and after a moment's hesitation he replied in a normal tone, I've heard him mention it, but it's only a small matter. It's probably a result of his demonic nature and he's just trying to stir up trouble. Is that so? Yun Ruoyan nodded slightly and didn't pursue the matter any further. However, she had gained a deeper understanding of the real farsighted king. The real farsighted king definitely wasn't as righteous and virtuous as he appeared to be. Zhou Yifeng had told her that the farsighted king had been preparing for the rebellion for more than 10 years, not just 3. As a result, Yun Ruoyan was almost certain that the rebellion hadn't been started by the snake spirit, but by Li Xing himself. It was only later that the snake spirit had taken over Li Xing's identity as the farsighted king. Perhaps to curry favor with Li Xing, not only had it taken over, but it had also sped up the preparations for the rebellion and recruited a few demonic beasts to help it. However, Yun Ruoyan didn't intend to personally interfere in this matter. She was already a student of Kongming Academy, and in a year's time she would be heading to the alternate dimension with Li Mo. Her life would be uncertain, and the affairs of the Qingyuan continent had little to do with her. Thank you for your trust, Your Highness, for telling me all of this. Although Yun Ruoyan knew what was going on, she still had to keep up appearances. This is how it should be. You saved this king, so this king ought to tell you everything he knows without holding back. But in his heart, Yun Ruoyan knew that since she was Li Mo's disciple, she would definitely tell Li Mo what he had told her today. He was merely using Yun Ruoyan's ears to talk to Li Mo. Since Yun Ruoyan didn't want to get involved, she didn't press the matter any further. Instead, she asked Li Xing for the key to the vault. Li Xing handed the key to Yun Ruoyan without another word. Just as she was about to enter the vault again, she suddenly remembered something. Your Highness, there's one more thing I'd like to trouble you with. I've drugged Physician Tseng, and he's currently waiting for me at the foot of the fake mountain by the southern wall of the manor. Could you have someone sprinkle this on his face? Yun Ruoyan handed a pouch of the drug to Li Xing. Yun Ruoyan took the key and entered the vault once more. She walked quickly to the room with the plaque on it and easily opened the black metal door with the key in her hand. Yun Ruoyan used both hands to force open the heavy door. Compared to the prison cell, the door to the vault was many times heavier, and those without a certain level of spiritual energy wouldn't be able to open it easily. When the door opened, Yun Ruoyan found herself in a room that wasn't particularly spacious. Although it wasn't spacious, it was quite tall. The walls were lined with bookshelves, each of which was filled with books. As Yun Ruoyan stood in the middle of the room and looked up, she felt as if she couldn't see the end of the room. The bookshelves were inlaid with many moonstones, and at regular intervals, there were lamps made of luminous pearls that wouldn't go out. As a result, there was plenty of light in the room. After taking a look around, Yun Ruoyan began searching for her own secret archives. The archives here had been divided quite meticulously. Not only did they contain the secret histories of the various families, but they also contained the secret histories of the imperial family. When Yun Ruoyan took the key to the vault, she had promised Li Xing that she wouldn't casually look through the records of the other families. Moreover, she wasn't that curious, so Yun Ruoyan focused on searching for the Yun family's records. Because there were so many books, it took Yun Ruoyan some time to find them. About an hour later, she finally found the Yun family's archives. I finally found it. Yun Ruoyan's emotions were complicated as she picked up a book that wasn't too heavy from the shelf. As she flipped open the book, she saw that it contained the secret history of the Yun family's third generation. Yun Ruoyan didn't flip through the pages one by one. Instead, she flipped to the current generation and found the section that belonged to her. Yun Ruoyan's heart, which had been beating wildly, suddenly became incomparably calm. She knew very well that since her birth wasn't something she could choose, she could only accept it and face it, no matter what the outcome was. Under the illumination of both the moonstone and the luminous pearl, Yun Ruoyan's page in the Yun family's archives was clearly recorded in black and white. The Yun family's 534th generation descendant, Yun Ruoyan, is not of the Yun bloodline. She was born to her mother Lin Yueme and a man surnamed Long. As soon as this man appeared in the capital, he attracted Yi Mei's attention, but his identity was extremely mysterious. Yi Mei investigated for a long time, but was unable to uncover his true identity. Later, while tailing him, Yi Mei saw him fighting with someone, his entire body transforming into a terrifying black dragon. According to Yi Mei's description, it's highly likely that he's a member of the Dark Dragon clan, which disappeared from the Qingyuan continent 1,000 years ago. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but pause. Although she had some guesses about this result, she still needed some time to digest it when it was right in front of her eyes. Yi Mei tailed Long until he took Lin Yueme away. A few months later, when Lin Yueme returned to the Yun family, she was already pregnant, and the child in her womb was Yun Ruoyan. Chapter 287. When Yun Ruoyan finished reading the portion of the Yun family's archives, she stared blankly for a long time. The contents of the archives were basically the same as her subconscious conjectures, as well as the experiences she'd had during this period of time. She really wasn't Yun Lan's daughter, and she wasn't of the Yun family's bloodline. This also explained why Yun Lan had treated her so coldly for so long, and why, despite being the sole wife-born daughter of the Yun family, she was treated so awkwardly in the Yun family. After knowing the truth, she felt relieved. All the resentment she had towards Yun Lan in the past had turned into smoke and clouds at this moment. So I'm not his daughter at all, so why would he have any obligation to treat me well? Yun Ruoyan laughed self-deprecatingly, thinking back to how much Yun Lan had doted on her when she was very young. Perhaps that's because he loved my mother, but as time passed, his love for her grew weaker and weaker. It's only human nature and there's nothing to resent. However, the matter of the demonic dragon bloodline still made Yun Ruoyan feel a little strange. After being a human for so many years, she had no choice but to accept that half of her blood was non-human. Anyone would find this hard to accept, and Yun Ruoyan was no exception. Moreover, the demonic dragon race had been exterminated by the combined efforts of the silver dragons and humans 1,000 years ago. Didn't this mean that once she inherited the demonic dragon bloodline, she would have to become enemies with both the humans and the silver dragons? Would she have to become enemies with her friends, family, and lover? Mistress. Qiuqiu's voice rang out in Yun Ruoyan's mind. No matter what your bloodline is, you'll always be Qiuqiu's mistress. Thank you, Qiuqiu. I know that even if there's no place for me in this world, you'll definitely stand by my side. Mistress, it's not just me. Li Mo's feelings for you aren't fake, and he'll definitely stand by your side. But he's a silver dragon and I'm a demonic dragon. We're natural enemies. Yun Ruoyan buried her head between her knees, her heart filled with complicated emotions. Mistress, if you don't say anything, no one will know that you're a descendant of the demonic dragon race, and you won't have to worry about these things, Qiuqiu consoled. Then you'll still be you. Yeah. Then what does the demonic dragon clan from 1,000 years ago have to do with me? Why would I go against the entire world for them? However, just as she had this thought, a red light flashed in her mind. Then the demon eye's angry voice was heard. As someone with the bloodline of the demon dragon, if you dare to go against your destiny, you will be cursed by the demon dragon vengeful spirit. The voice was unusually angry, so angry that Yun Ruoyan suddenly felt a splitting headache. I am the master of my own destiny. Whether it's a black dragon or a silver dragon, whether it's a demon or a demon, no one will be able to dictate my fate in this life. Yun Ruoyan's shout suddenly activated a large amount of mental energy in her mind, which suppressed the demonic eye's power. Master, what's wrong? Qiuqiu's voice rang out in her mind once more, its tone anxious. Did the demonic eye activate its power? Don't worry, I've suppressed it. Yun Ruoyan wiped the sweat from her forehead. In this life, I'll only act according to my own wishes. No one can threaten me. Mistress, no matter what decision you make, Qiuqiu will be by your side. Yun Ruoyan closed the document and put it back in its original place. Thank you for your trust, Your Highness. Here's the key to the document. After exiting the secret chamber, Yun Ruoyan returned the cross-shaped key to the far-sighted king. Compared to Miss Yun's saving grace for this prince, This matter is not worth mentioning. Li Xing took the key and said with a smile, "However, I hope that Miss Yun can keep the secret for this prince. You can't tell anyone." "Right, I promise." Yun Ruoyan didn't hesitate in the slightest. Although Li Xing hadn't told her much, Yun Ruoyan knew what he meant. Even Li Mo and the current emperor weren't aware of this secret document, so it was clear how well Li Xing had kept it a secret and how important it was to him. Moreover, there were many other secrets in the secret chamber. Li Xing had only instructed her to not read anything other than her own before handing the key to her. Even though Yun Ruoyan had saved Li Xing's life, she still had to accept his trust. By now the sun was high up in the sky and it was almost noon. Li Xing had bathed and changed into a fresh set of clothes, looking completely different from the sloppiness he'd displayed in his cell. If it weren't for Yun Ruoyan's sharp eyes, most servants wouldn't have been able to tell that the far-sighted king Li Xing had turned into a completely different person without anyone noticing. "Your Highness, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving with Physician Tseng," Yun Ruoyan said as she glanced at the sky. Li Xing put his fist to his lips and lightly coughed, looking as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. Yun Ruoyan frowned when she saw his expression. "Your Highness, is there something wrong with Physician Tseng? Does he have some sort of relationship with the snake spirit?" Physician Tseng had been brought into the manor 3 years ago, when the snake spirit had just entered the manor. Naturally, Yun Ruoyan would associate the snake spirit with Physician Tseng. "That's not it," Li Xing hurriedly replied. 3 years ago, one of my concubines discovered that Physician Tseng could cure women's illnesses, and she begged me to bring him back to the manor. He has nothing to do with the snake spirit." "In that case, Your Highness, please tell me directly." "It's like this," Li Xing began. "I was imprisoned by the snake spirit for 3 years, and during those 3 years he used my name to persecute almost all of my loyal subordinates. Not only that, but he's even managed to gather a large number of demons to work for him. Although I've regained my identity, I don't have any subordinates who can deal with these demons. Alone, I'm sure I won't be able to deal with them, so I'd like to ask Miss Yun to stay behind and help me deal with them." Li Xing had previously been a 7th-rank blade master, but his 3 years of imprisonment had weakened both his body and his cultivation. Even if he hadn't weakened, he still wouldn't have been able to deal with so many demons in the capital. After listening to Li Xing's words, Yun Ruoyan was silent for a moment before replying, "To tell you the truth, I still have some urgent matters to attend to. If Your Highness is willing to delay these matters, I'll definitely return to assist you once I'm done. I can lie that I'm in seclusion to deceive the snake spirit subordinates." Li Xing thought for a moment before continuing, "Miss Yun, I hope that you'll be able to help me when the time comes." Yun Ruoyan and Li Xing agreed that he would lie that he was in seclusion for 2 months, and that within 2 months, Yun Ruoyan would rush over to help him deal with the demons that the snake spirit had gathered. "But I can't let that heart-gouging demon stay here any longer," Yun Ruoyan continued. "I can't let him continue harming the innocent." Li Xing told Yun Ruoyan that the servants of the manor all lived in the manor's neighboring gardens, and that the demon who had dug out the hearts of the snake spirit was most likely staying there. However, the gardens had once been inhabited by cultivators and blade masters, but now they were inhabited by demons. Attempting to assassinate one of them would be a rather dangerous task. "I can send someone to summon him over and then kill him," Li Xing suggested. "No." Yun Ruoyan immediately rejected Li Xing's idea. "If I use your name, Your Highness, I'm afraid it'll alert the other demons. It's safer for me to kill him myself." By the time the two of them finished their conversation, it was already evening. Yun Ruoyan didn't stay in the far-sighted king's manor for long before the sky turned completely dark. Yun Ruoyan looked at the sky outside. A half-moon hung in the night sky, and from time to time, a few dark clouds would drift by, blocking out the moonlight. At this point in time, the entire world would be plunged into darkness. It was a dark and windy night, and Yun Ruoyan was dressed in black. She bade farewell to Li Xing, who was behind her, before leaping out of the 2nd floor of the building. Because the guards of the far-sighted king's manor were all servants of the snake spirit, Yun Ruoyan couldn't openly venture out. Yun Ruoyan dodged the guards and leaped out of the southern wall, arriving at the far-sighted king's manor, which was only a wall away from the far-sighted king's manor. Perhaps because the night was so dark and gloomy, the far-sighted king's manor, which didn't seem all that special during the day, emitted a dense demonic aura at night. Looking at the thick demonic aura, Yun Ruoyan dispelled her original plan to climb over the wall. Because the manor wasn't very large, Yun Ruoyan decided to walk around it and find a place where the demonic aura was weaker. Just as she was about to reach the entrance of the manor, she suddenly saw 3 people walking out of the manor. Yun Ruoyan hurriedly hid in the shadows and looked at the 3 people. Coincidentally, one of them was the youth with the demonic aura. "Brother Zhang, how come you're in the mood to take us out to have fun tonight?" A fat man who was walking beside the young man turned his head and asked with a smile. "I brought back the hearts of 3 maidens for the far-sighted king, and he was so happy that he allowed me to collect quite a bit of money from the treasury. Now that I've got money, I naturally have to think of my brothers," the youth replied. "In that case, I won't stand on ceremony." Walking on the other side of the young man was a man dressed like a scholar. The man spoke in a feminine tone, and his tone was exactly the same as that of the snake spirit. "Ah, Brother Chong, are you in a good mood today? Are you planning to join us at the brothel? I'm afraid you don't have the heart, do you?" "Ha!" The chubby man guffawed. The young scholar wasn't angry at the chubby man's taunting. Instead, he covered his mouth and nose with his fan and snorted disdainfully at the chubby man. "I do know of a good place," the youth finally began. "There's a new brothel on Red Willow Lane. Not only do they have beautiful women, but they also have beautiful catamites. I'm sure they'll satisfy your tastes. How about that?" Chapter 288. "That's good. Today I will follow you, Brother Wang, to have some fun," Scholar Chong said with a smile. Yun Ruoyan silently followed behind the 3 of them, walking along the main street toward the brothels of Wu City. "Qiu, what do you think of these 3 demons' cultivation?" Yun Ruoyan asked Qiu telepathically. Because of the demonic aura emanating from their bodies, Yun Ruoyan was unable to determine their cultivation. "Mistress, they're all weaker than you, but if the 3 of them work together, I'm afraid you won't have the upper hand. Even if you manage to win, it won't be easy," Qiu replied. Although Yun Ruoyan was brave, she wasn't a lone wolf. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she wouldn't put herself in danger. "What if I use the demonic soul powder?" Yun Ruoyan asked. Since the 3 youths' cultivation was lower than hers, her bewitching powder would be able to subdue them. However, if she wanted to subdue all 3 of them at the same time, it would require even more speed. But Yun Ruoyan was still quite confident in her own speed. "Bewitching powder is fine, but there's only enough left in the pocket dimension to bewitch 1 person at a time," Qiu replied helplessly. "Alright, I'll follow them. I'll definitely be able to find that heart-digging demon alone," Yun Ruoyan replied. The youth, surnamed Wang, brought the fatty and the scholar all the way to the fragrant pavilion in the middle of Red Willow Alley. The brothel keeper immediately led the 3 of them to a private room. It was clear that the youth was a regular here. Yun Ruoyan watched as the 3 youths entered the pavilion, but because she was dressed in black, she couldn't follow them in. Instead, she took a detour to the backyard of the pavilion and climbed over the wall. When she landed, she found that she was in the kitchen, which was bustling with activity. Fortunately, Yun Ruoyan was fast enough to hide herself as soon as she landed, so no one noticed her presence. "Little Six, hurry up and serve the dishes." At this moment, a shout came from the kitchen. A young man dressed as a waiter ran all the way from the front hall to the kitchen. As he ran, he shouted, I'm coming. Stop rushing me." When Xiao Liuzi ran to a dimly lit area, a hand suddenly reached out from the bushes and covered his mouth without anyone noticing. The hand dragged him into the bushes. Xiao Liuzi only felt the back of his neck go numb before he lost consciousness. Yun Ruoyan nimbly took off her nocturnal clothes and hid them in the bushes, then took off Little Six's clothes and put them on. In order not to attract any attention, she tore off the fake birthmark on her face. When she walked out of the bushes, she looked exactly like a pretty shop assistant. "Little Six, where the hell did Little Six go? Come and serve the dishes." The chef with the big ladle shouted again. He's here. Yun Ruoyan jogged into the kitchen, where she saw a fat, greasy, middle-aged man dressed in a large apron and holding a large spoon in his hand. He was scolding the people around him. Hurry up. Haven't you eaten?" The man was clearly the chef in charge of the kitchen. "Chef, where's the dish to be served?" Yun Ruoyan jogged up to the middle-aged man and asked with a smile. "Over there, fragrant mandarin fish." The middle-aged man pointed at the table beside him with the big ladle in his hand. All right, Yun Ruoyan replied, picked up the plate of fragrant mandarin fish and turned to leave. Only then did the middle-aged man get a clear look at Yun Ruoyan's face. Naturally, he found her unfamiliar, so he used the ladle in front of her and raised his eyebrows. Where did you come from? Why haven't I seen you before? Oh, I'm new here. It's my first day on the job. Yun Ruoyan didn't seem the slightest bit nervous about being discovered. Where's that little six? The middle-aged man asked again. He suddenly had a stomachache, so he asked me to take his place. Yun Ruoyan smiled. There was an unwritten rule in the back kitchen. Any newcomer who came to work had to come to the back kitchen and greet the staff. If they didn't go through this procedure, they'd be put in a difficult position. But when the middle-aged man saw that Yun Ruoyan was only a teenager and very handsome, he didn't want to make things difficult for her. He moved the ladle away and motioned for Yun Ruoyan to leave. Looking at Yun Ruoyan's slender back, the middle-aged man murmured curiously, "Such a handsome boy, but the madam isn't letting him entertain guests. Instead, she's telling him to run the restaurant? How strange." Yun Ruoyan carried the dish into the main hall. Her gaze scanned the small hall, but she didn't see any sign of the three beasts. Then she saw the madam continuously bringing guests up to the second floor, so she walked up with the plate of fragrant mandarin fish. The second floor was split into two and Yun Ruoyan casually walked to the left. "Where are you going?" "Over there." "You're so clumsy." The madam on the second floor called out to Yun Ruoyan. When Yun Ruoyan turned around, she paused, wondering when she had such a handsome attendant in her brothel. "Mother, our girl isn't here, so why aren't the dishes being served?" The door to the left of the room opened, and the person who had spoken was none other than the heart-digging demon, the short-robed youth. "The dishes and the girl will be served soon, Your Highness." The madam smiled, then personally led Yun Ruoyan to serve the dishes. Yun Ruoyan followed the madam into the room, where she saw the fat man, the scholar, and the short-robed youth sitting at a table in the middle of the room. "Come, serve the dishes," the madam instructed Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan lowered her head and placed the plate of fragrant mandarin fish on the table, then stood by the madam's side with her hands behind her back. "Mother, did we come at a bad time today? Even two girls have to wait for half a day, and there's even a beautiful catamite. Last time, you bragged to me that the catamite was even more delicate than the prettiest girl here." The short-robed youth smiled at the madam. "The girl's already on her way," the madam added. "As for the catamite, it's not a lie. He'll be here soon." "There's no need for the catamite," the scholarly youth suddenly interjected. "What, Brother Chong, are you looking for a girl to taste today?" "Huh." The fat man guffawed as he drank large bowls of wine. The scholarly youth didn't bother arguing with him. Instead, he pointed his fan at Yun Ruoyan, who was standing by the side. "I've taken a liking to him." As soon as the scholarly youth spoke, everyone's gazes landed on Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan hadn't expected such a reaction and she couldn't help but panic a little. However, this panic only lasted for a moment and she quickly calmed down. After all, with her cultivation, even if she couldn't kill the short-robed youth, it wouldn't be a problem for her to escape unscathed. "Oh, Mom, your fragrant lady brothel has improved again." The short-robed youth stared unblinkingly at Yun Ruoyan. "Even a mere waiter is so handsome that even a man like me can't help but be tempted, let alone this brother of mine. What do you think? Just leave him here." The short-robed youth took out a silver ingot from his pocket and handed it to the madam. The madam accepted the ingot with a wide grin, then turned to Yun Ruoyan. "Stay here and serve us. We won't mistreat you and it'll be better than a year of running the brothel." Yun Ruoyan clenched her fists and nodded as though she were a yes man. The scholar's heart itched when he saw Yun Ruoyan's demure demeanor, and he beckoned her to come over. Yun Ruoyan walked over in small steps, whispering to the scholarly youth, "Sir, there are too many people here." When the scholarly youth saw Yun Ruoyan's blushing face, his heart itched even more. He stood up and said, "Brothers, I'm a little drunk and I'd like to take a rest." The two of them naturally knew what to do and they agreed with a smile. The madam led the scholarly youth to the second floor, and the scholarly youth led Yun Ruoyan to a room on the right. Once they entered the room and the madam left, the scholarly youth's demeanor instantly changed. His expression was sinister as he pounced at Yun Ruoyan. But in the next moment, a cold dagger was pressed against his throat. Who are you? What do you want?" the scholarly youth asked. Don't worry, I won't kill you right now. I just want you to help me. Yun Ruoyan waved a hand at the scholarly youth, and a colorless, odorless fog enveloped his face. Go kill those 2 demons that came with you, then kill yourself, Yun Ruoyan ordered coldly. Brother Chong, why were you back so quickly? The chubby youth and the scholarly youth couldn't help but ask curiously. Don't mention it. That kid's too weak and he fainted after just a few hits. The scholarly youth sat back down on his previous seat. So boring, the chubby youth replied. That kid's pretty, but his arms and legs are all skinny. How could he possibly match up to such a plump woman? As the fat man spoke, he pinched the body of a fat prostitute beside him. The woman let out a cry and giggled. But before her giggles could fade, it turned into a terrified scream. The scholarly youth sitting beside them had suddenly transformed into a snake-headed, human-bodied monster. The monster opened its mouth and bit down on the chubby youth's thick neck. As the chubby youth struggled, his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The 2 prostitutes screamed in fright before collapsing to the ground, unconscious. Brother Chong, what are you doing? The youth stood up abruptly, wanting to attack the snake-headed monster, but he suddenly felt his entire body go limp, and he could feel his cultivation fading away. Realizing that he had fallen into a trap, the short fighter immediately jumped out of the window behind him and stumbled towards the direction of the wondrous flower garden. But a figure suddenly blocked his path. The youth had no choice but to stop and look up. It was that handsome servant. Who are you and why are you trying to kill me? The youth retreated to the wall. I was sent by the heavens to rid the world of evil. Yun Ruoyan flashed the dark steel dagger in her hand as she approached the youth. The youth struggled to stand up straight as if he were ready to fight back. You've eaten my energy-dispersing pill and you're now a cripple, Yun Ruoyan replied coldly. You've stolen so many people's hearts and today, I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to have your heart gouged out. As soon as Yun Ruoyan finished speaking, she thrust her dagger toward the youth's heart. Chapter 289. Yun Ruoyan plunged the dagger deep into the youth's chest. The youth's eyes were as round as saucers as he stared at Yun Ruoyan. If you kill me, His Highness will definitely avenge me, and the brothers of the Wondrous Garden will definitely avenge me. Fine, then you can go to hell and slowly wait for them to avenge you. Yun Ruoyan's voice was as cold as ice. She pulled the dagger out of the youth's chest, but he didn't immediately die. Instead, he twitched uncontrollably on the ground. At this moment, a pair of dark green snake eyes appeared in Red Willow Alley. It approached the 2 of them at an extremely fast speed and arrived before them in a few moments. It was a very thick python, and in its mouth was a rather large wild boar's head that was dripping with blood. The python was the youth's true form, and the boar's head was the fatty. Yun Ruoyan stared at the python's jade-green eyes for a moment before taking 2 steps back. The python released the boar's head, which fell to the ground. Then the giant python bit down on the young man who was still twitching on the ground. With this bite, the young man's upper body was sucked into its huge mouth. However, it didn't swallow the youth whole. Instead, it bit off his upper body and swallowed it whole, leaving his lower body on the ground. His intestines and organs were scattered all over the ground, and his 2 legs had transformed into the hind legs of a goat. As it turned out, the youth was actually a goat spirit. After swallowing half of the youth's body, the python began to slam its head against the stone walls on either side of the street. Once, twice, thrice. The ground shook with every strike and the huge commotion quickly attracted the attention of the residents on the street. Yun Ruoyan hid herself until the python's head was smashed into a pulp. Only when it was dead did she leave. Your Highness. Yun Ruoyan arrived at Li Xing's house to bid him farewell. That demon has been dealt with. I'll leave with Physician Tsing early in the morning. Miss Yun, you've dealt with that demon. Li Xing seemed a little surprised because he knew that Yun Ruoyan was going to kill the demon. As a result, he had been paying close attention to any movements in the neighboring gardens. He waited until the middle of the night, but the wondrous garden had been quiet the entire time. Li Xing had thought that Yun Ruoyan had been frightened by the demonic aura emanating from the garden and had retreated in the face of overwhelming odds. He hadn't expected Yun Ruoyan to suddenly tell him that the demonic beast had been dealt with. Your Highness, Your Highness. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door and Yun Ruoyan cautiously hid behind a screen in the room. What is it? Li Xing asked. Young Master Wang, Uncle Lu and Master Chong of the Wondrous Flower Garden suddenly started fighting each other in Red Willow Alley. The person outside the door said anxiously. They fought. Li Xing couldn't help but feel a little confused, but he quickly asked, what was the result? None of them survived. They're all dead. That person said. Furthermore, the three of them have revealed their true forms. Currently, there are a large number of commoners on the street watching them. The commoners were all discussing, saying that they were the monsters that dug out hearts during this period of time. Because they couldn't divide the spoils evenly, they started fighting, and in the end, all three of them died. Your Highness, do you want to go out and pacify the commoners? The person speaking outside the room was clearly aware of what was going on in the Wondrous Flower Garden, and he was probably a demon himself. Last night, I had a shortness of breath while cultivating and my lungs were injured. I'll need to seclude myself for 2 months, so I'll leave this matter to you, Li Xing told the person outside. When the person heard Li Xing's words, he paused for a moment before nodding and leaving. Only when she heard the person's footsteps go down the stairs did Yun Ruoyan walk out from behind the screen. These demons are extremely cunning and suspicious. If I'm still in seclusion in 2 months, they'll definitely grow suspicious, Li Xing said worriedly. Don't worry, Your Highness. Even if I don't have time to come out in 2 months, I'll definitely send someone with a cultivation no lower than mine to help you, Your Highness. Only after hearing Yun Ruoyan's assurance did Li Xing relax a little. Yun Ruoyan returned to the inn that she had booked earlier. At daybreak, Physician Xing received Li Xing's orders and went to the inn to look for Yun Ruoyan. You must be Miss Yun. On Your Highness's orders, I'm going out with you to treat a patient. Physician Xing greeted Yun Ruoyan politely. That night, when Yun Ruoyan had gone to the side courtyard to look for Physician Xing, she hadn't been able to get a good look at the man's face. Now that she looked at him, he had a long beard and a square face, and he seemed rather upright and righteous. Yun Ruoyan wanted to immediately ask him about Lin Yueme's illness, but she knew that this wasn't the right time, so she could only suppress that urge. Yes, I'm going to the capital to treat a patient. Have you had breakfast yet, Physician Xing? Yun Ruoyan asked. I've eaten at home, Physician Xing replied. In that case, let's head out now. A patient can't afford to wait. Yun Ruoyan led the way to the back courtyard of the inn. The carriage that she had requested from Li Xing the night before had already been delivered early in the morning. Physician Xing entered the carriage, and Yun Ruoyan hopped onto the driver's seat and drove the carriage toward the city gates. An hour later, Yun Ruoyan's carriage arrived at the city gates. When the guards saw that Yun Ruoyan's carriage bore the insignia of the far-sighted king's manor, they didn't ask any questions and immediately opened the gates. Not long after Yun Ruoyan's carriage exited the city gates, a flame steed galloped toward her. Brother. Yun Ruoyan could see from afar that the man on the horse was none other than her brother, Yun Moxiao. Yun Ruoyan rode up to him. Brother, why are you here? Yun Moxiao hurriedly pulled on the reins as soon as he saw Yun Ruoyan. I was still worried about you, so I asked for leave from father and rushed over. All right then, let's head back together. Yun Ruoyan smiled. Although she felt that Yun Moxiao was being a little cautious around her, she still felt a warmth in her heart. Did you find Physician Xing? Yun Moxiao asked as he turned his horse around to ride alongside Yun Ruoyan. Yes, he's in the carriage, Yun Ruoyan replied. I ran into some matters in the city and I was delayed for a day. I'll tell you more when I have time. Because Physician Xing was in the carriage, Yun Ruoyan couldn't tell him about the fake far-sighted king, so the siblings focused on their journey. If the flame steed galloped at full speed, a day would be more than enough to reach the capital. Yun Ruoyan's carriage, however, was a little slower, and Physician Xing had to rest from time to time. The siblings traveled for a full day and night, only arriving at the capital the next morning. I'll make arrangements for Physician Xing. You'd best make a trip to the Slaughtering King's manor first, Yun Moxiao said to Yun Ruoyan as soon as they entered the capital. What's the matter? Is Li Mo angry? Yun Ruoyan asked, a little uncertainly. You might not know this, but the day after you left, the Slaughtering King came to the manor to ask for your hand in marriage, but you weren't there. The Slaughtering King's face didn't look very angry, but extremely angry. That's one of the reasons I was so anxious to find you. Yun Moxiao shook his head helplessly. Did father agree to his proposal? Yun Ruoyan was clearly more concerned about this issue than Li Mo's anger. Father didn't agree at first, but when the slaughtering king offered a cloud sky fruit as a betrothal gift, he relented and said that he'd wait for you to return. After all, you're a student of Kongming Academy and you have your own opinions. Actually, Father's always been aware of your relationship with the slaughtering king, but he's probably feeling conflicted. If you insist on marrying no one but the slaughtering king, I'm sure he'll agree to the two of you. Yun Ruoyan knew that her father would only agree to their proposal because of the cloud sky fruit. Yun Ruoyan knew of the cloud sky fruit. It could help a peak 9th rank blade master break through to the peak of the Sword Saint realm. Even if they were to remain at the peak of the Sword Saint realm for the rest of their lives, they would still be able to look down on the rest of the world. This betrothal gift seemed to have been specially made for Yunlan, and it must have been difficult for Li Mo to obtain it. Yun Ruoyan thought about how ugly Li Mo's expression would be when he arrived at the Yun Manor with the cloud sky fruit, only to find that she was nowhere to be found. However, having gotten used to Li Mo's awkward demeanor, Yun Ruoyan found it rather amusing and she couldn't help but smile faintly. Brother, I'll leave Physician Tsing to you. I'll make a trip to the slaughtering king's manor. Yun Ruoyan handed the reins of her carriage to her brother, took his flames teed, and set off in the direction of the slaughtering king's manor. Miss Yun, you're finally here. When Yun Ruoyan arrived at the gates of the slaughtering king's manor, 2 guards, one fat and one thin, came up to her as soon as she dismounted. What's the matter? Yun Ruoyan asked when she saw the exaggerated expressions on their faces. Miss Yun, Miss Li Luo has been coming to the gates many times over the past few days, asking if Miss Yun has arrived. She's making us all jumpy, the thin guard replied. Don't waste any more of Miss Yun's time. Let her in quickly, the fat guard ordered as he took the reins from Yun Ruoyan's hands. In that case, I'll have to trouble you, Yun Ruoyan replied to the fat guard before striding into the manor. Li Mo, Li Mo. Yun Ruoyan called out as soon as she entered Li Mo's courtyard. Miss Yun, you're finally here. Li Luo walked out from the living room. Sister Li Luo, is Li Mo inside? Yun Ruoyan walked up to Li Luo and whispered. Yes, he hasn't said a word since he returned from the Yun Manor 2 days ago, Li Luo replied softly. In that case, what's he doing right now? Reading, Li Luo replied. Li Luo glanced back at the room. But ever since this morning, Your Highness has been reading the same page of the same book, and I don't know what he's thinking. I've never seen him like this before, so you should go in and take a look. Li Luo left and Yun Ruoyan tiptoed into the living room. By the door, Yun Ruoyan could see Li Mo sitting on a couch, a book in his hands. His eyes were glued to the book, but he didn't move an inch. Chapter 290. Yun Ruoyan stood in front of the door for a long time. You're back. Li Mo finally spoke. Yes, I'm back, Yun Ruoyan replied softly, but she didn't move from her spot. What are you standing there for? Aren't you tired of running around these past few days? Li Mo finally put down the book in his hand and looked up at Yun Ruoyan. I was scared to hear that you were angry. Yun Ruoyan immediately smiled. After removing the fake birthmark from her face, she hadn't made a new one. Instead, she wore a peach blossom veil that she hadn't worn in a long time. The past few days of running around had caused Yun Ruoyan's hair to be a little disheveled, and it was clear that she hadn't eaten well. Her chin was much sharper and the peach blossom veil covered almost half of her face. So you're scared? Li Mo shifted his gaze away from Yun Ruoyan. It looks like Li Mo's really angry this time, Yun Ruoyan thought. She pretended to be careful as she walked up to Li Mo's side. Are you really angry? Shouldn't I be? Li Mo raised his head to look at Yun Ruoyan, his brows slightly furrowed. His straight nose and thin lips clearly indicated that he was angry. You seem to be, Yun Ruoyan murmured. Yun Ruoyan replied softly, clearly lacking in confidence. Then what can I do to make you not angry? Yun Ruoyan twirled a strand of hair by her temple, clearly distressed. Li Mo sighed. Just as he was about to say something, Yun Ruoyan leaned forward and kissed him on the lips. Her soft lips were cold, like dew that had been left out in the open for an entire day. Are you still angry? Yun Ruoyan left Li Mo's lips after a light touch. Her large eyes stared into Li Mo's inky black pupils. Suddenly, as though her eyes were playing tricks on her, she saw a flash of icy blue light in Li Mo's eyes, and then she was pulled into his embrace. Her tender lips were occupied by Li Mo, and they began to rub against each other. Yun Ruoyan's lips were cold dew, and Li Mo's lips were like the flames of that dew. At first Yun Ruoyan accepted it, but as Li Mo found it harder and harder to control himself, Yun Ruoyan began to push him away. She could taste blood on her lips, but she didn't know whether it was her own or Li Mo's. Yun Ruoyan's lips were also starting to grow numb, and she couldn't feel any warmth or sweetness. All she could feel was Li Mo's anger. When intimacy became an outlet to vent one's anger, then this intimacy was no longer pleasurable. Li Mo, it hurts. Yun Ruoyan pushed against Li Mo's shoulders with both hands, barely able to speak. Let go of me. Under Yun Ruoyan's persistent resistance, Li Mo finally let go of her. As soon as Li Mo let go of her, she subconsciously tried to retreat, but Li Mo grabbed her arm. Li Mo, it seems like I've really made you angry and more than I expected. As Yun Ruoyan wiped away the blood on her lips, she replied, then I'll wait for you to calm down before talking to you. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned to leave, but Li Mo grabbed her arm tightly. Yan oh, Li Mo called out, suppressing his emotions. Yes. Yun Ruoyan responded. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have vented my anger on you like that. It's just that. Li Mo continued slowly, the more angry I am, the more I care about you. You said that my anger exceeded your expectations, but it's actually because I care about you far more than you can imagine. When Yun Ruoyan heard Li Mo's words, she couldn't help but feel touched. Such a noble, aloof man was definitely lethal when he spoke of his love. Yun Ruoyan didn't doubt Li Mo's sincerity. Yun Ruoyan turned around and grabbed Li Mo's hand. I should be the one apologizing. I shouldn't have left without telling you, right? I've made you worry, haven't I? But there are some things that I want to accomplish on my own. I can't rely on you forever. What? Li Mo frowned. Why can't you rely on me forever? I want to be your pillar of support, and that's why I want to marry you. I want to protect you so that you'll never be hurt again. Li Mo, I know what you mean. She sat down by Li Mo's side and lowered her head. Before I met you, I experienced many things that I couldn't bear to look back on. Although I've tried my best to forget these unpleasant memories, I can't forget the changes they've brought to me. Yun Ruoyan rested her head on Li Mo's shoulder. Before those things happened, my greatest wish was to find a man I could rely on for the rest of my life. But after what I've experienced, I've come to understand that the only person I can rely on in this world is myself. Perhaps you can try relying on me just like now, Li Mo continued. Yun Ruoyan smiled bitterly and shook her head. Then, her face filled with longing, she said, perhaps one day when we're free from all conflict, I'll be willing to rely on you like this every day. Sometimes I find that I really don't understand you. Li Mo put an arm around Yun Ruoyan's thin shoulders. You're only 14 or 15, and this is the first time you've left the capital, other than when you were at Kongming Academy. Your age and experience are clearly limited. But you give me the feeling that you've been through a lot. And what you said just now, it's a good thing you said it to me. If you'd said it to anyone else, I can't imagine how they'd react. Li Mo, let me tell you a secret, Yun Ruoyan suddenly began. Actually, I've been reborn as a spirit and I've already lived a life of my own. That's why I've been through so much. In my previous life, I died very miserably. It was because of my own incompetence that my family was almost ruined and killed. In this life, I'm determined to become a strong cultivator. Li Mo turned to look at Yun Ruoyan. It's only been a few days since we last met, and your storytelling skills have improved quite a bit. You don't believe me? Li Mo shook his head. Of course not. Is what you're saying true? Of course not. Yun Ruoyan smiled mischievously. The reason I'm old is because I've matured early. I didn't have a good time in the Yun household in the past few years. My mother died young, my father didn't love me, and my brother wasn't by my side. I've long since developed the habit of relying on myself. And I can't change that habit. If you really want to marry me, please accept me, not change me. I can accept all of you, Li Mo replied immediately. But I really hope that there won't be too many secrets between us. We're about to become husband and wife, and if we still have to hide things from each other, what's the point of our marriage? Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment. Li Mo, my past experiences have made it hard for me to trust others, even those I love the most. As a result, I won't reveal my own secrets first, but if you're willing to tell me all of them, I won't hide them from you any longer. Li Mo stood up and walked to the window. After a long moment he said, "In the few days that you've been gone I've been thinking about this. In the past I didn't tell you all of my secrets because I didn't want you to be pulled into a whirlpool of danger. But since I've decided to marry you, you're destined to be bound to me, to face all of my dangers with me." Li Mo shifted his gaze from the window to Yunruan. "I'll tell you all of the secrets that I've sworn to protect with my life." Li Mo had already revealed his true identity to Yunruan, but after spending some time with her, Yunruan felt that Li Mo was still hiding more secrets from her. For example, Li Mo would often disappear for a few days at a time, or she had heard someone report to him about his wife when they were in the southern tower. Although Yunruan would never ask Li Mo about these things, it didn't mean that she didn't care or want to know. She was simply waiting for an opportunity for Li Mo to tell her himself, and this was the opportunity. "Before I tell you this secret, I'd like to take you to two places." Li Mo extended a hand toward Yunruan. Yunruan walked over and placed her hand on Li Mo's palm. Li Mo pulled her out of the hall, then flew toward the Yueli Mountains with Yunruan. 4 hours later the sword stopped above a valley. There were a few dozen wooden houses at the bottom of the valley, and there were a few cows and sheep as well as some people working at the front and back of the houses. This was just like a small village. "The people living here are all beastkin slaves that I've rescued in the past. Including those that I rescued from the Yu Kingdom 10 days ago, there are now 2,350 of them," Li Mo began. "Perhaps I can't rebuild a powerful beastkin kingdom for them, but I want to give them a life free from worldly strife." "Do they know that you were the one who saved them?" Yunruoyan asked. "Only a small portion of them do," Li Mo replied. "Most of them, like Shui Yifeng, view me as their enemy. Only a small portion of them know my true identity." "Li Mo, there's something I've never been able to figure out. Were you really the one who slaughtered that 100,000-strong beastkin army all those years ago?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because they were afflicted with a demonic parasite. If I didn't kill them, they'd become bloodthirsty demons." Li Mo clenched his fists tightly. They fought painfully against the parasites and only a few of them managed to survive. Now most of them have become my guards and the rest are begging for death. I had no choice but to order them all to be slaughtered. Chapter 291. Li Mo's tone was filled with grief and helplessness. At the time he had only been a 17-year-old youth. How much willpower and endurance did he have to endure the sorrowful cries of nearly 100,000 of his own people? How much courage did he have to finally give the order to kill his own people? The world didn't know Li Mo's true identity, and they called him the Slaughtering King, praising and revering him. But perhaps only Li Mo himself knew what he had endured. He had been misunderstood, hated, and condemned by his own conscience. Yunruan seemed to finally understand why Li Mo was so cold, why he always wore a uniform of black, and why, despite being only in his 20s, he seemed as weathered as she. Yunruan's heart ached at the thought of the youth who at 16 had been forced to kill without hesitation, had to bear the weight of a mountain on his shoulders. Her heart ached for Li Mo who still had to bear the blame. Yunruan could feel Li Mo's body tense up, and she couldn't help but turn around and hug him. Only then did Li Mo's tense body relax a little. "Li Mo, do you know who planted the demonic parasite in your clansmen?" Yunruoyan asked from Li Mo's embrace. Killing the culprit was the best way to console the dead. It was the first elder of the Silver Dragons. Li Mo caressed Yunruoyan's hair. "Back then he was severely injured by my father. In order to exterminate the beastkin, he sent one of his protectors to hide on the Qinyuan continent. After my father's death, the beastkin were leaderless, and his protector incited the beastkin to muster an army to rebel, hoping to use the human race to exterminate the beastkin. Li Mo said that when he heard this news he personally petitioned Emperor Li to become the commander-in-chief of the rebellion. Because Emperor Li knew of his background, he agreed to let him lead the army to quell the rebellion. Li Mo's goal in becoming the commander-in-chief was to stop the war. He found a few of the beastmen's commanders and revealed his identity, revealing the first elder's scheme. Several of the beastmen generals had willingly submitted to Li Mo, but Li Mo hadn't expected that the Silver Dragon Protector would use his own body as a parasite in order to complete his mission, using all of his cultivation to plant a demonic parasite on the army of 100,000 beastmen. Once this demonic insect entered a person's body, it would demonize them, causing them to lose their humanity and become cruel and murderous. It would cause a normal person to become like a bloodthirsty beast. If all 100,000 beastmen were demonized, not only would the beastmen be wiped out, but the entire Qinyuan continent would become a living hell. At the time, Li Mo had no other choice. Those compatriots, knowing that they would become demons who would not recognize even their own kin, all begged for death. Almost none of them resisted. I once swore on the heads of 100,000 beastmen that I would behead the first elder of the Silver Dragon clan in my lifetime to comfort their souls in heaven. Alright. Yun Ruoyan hugged Li Mo tightly once more. I'll cut off that demon's head with you and hang it in this valley, so that he can forever repent to the descendants of the beastmen. Li Mo hugged Yun Ruoyan tightly as well. After a long moment, Li Mo continued, "This is only a secret of mine. Next, I'm going to take you to see someone. She's the greatest secret of my life." Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but think back to that day in the southern tower, when Li Mo had mentioned his wife to someone else. At the time, Li Mo had referred to her as his mother. However, Li Mo had also told her that his mother had been kidnapped by the Silver Dragons, so this question had been bothering Yun Ruoyan ever since. However, she would soon have an answer to this question. Li Mo once more took to the skies, heading in another direction of the Yueli Mountains, toward another valley. The second day after Yun Ruoyan's departure, Li Mo was about to go to the Yun Manor to propose a marriage when he received a message from Su Bei, asking him to bring Yun Ruoyan to Empress Xuetong. At first, Li Mo was a little hesitant, but after a short conversation with Yun Ruoyan, he decided to bring her to Empress Xuetong. As for Empress Xuetong, when she first heard of Yun Ruoyan from Li Mo, she had only seen her as a cauldron that could help Li Mo break through. However, after learning from the first elder of Kongming Academy that Yun Ruoyan possessed the bloodline of a black dragon, she began to think of ways to make use of Yun Ruoyan. She intended to use Yun Ruoyan to form an alliance with the black dragons to destroy the silver dragons. Yun Ruoyan was a crucial part of this alliance, which was why Empress Xuetong was so eager to meet this woman who both Li Mo and the first elder had described as extraordinary. 2 hours later, Li Mo brought Yun Ruoyan to an unfamiliar valley. Perhaps because of the approaching twilight or perhaps because of the lack of people, this valley looked far more sinister than the one Yun Ruoyan had encountered before. Especially this tall and majestic yet at the same time dilapidated castle. Under the twilight it more or less gave off an eerie feeling. Li Mo, is this? Yun Ruoyan had already guessed the answer. Yes, this is the royal castle of the Beastkin Kingdom and I was born here. Li Mo took Yun Ruoyan's hand and led her toward the castle gates. This is also where I grew up and I have many memories of my childhood here. But when I was 6, everything disappeared. The two of them walked into the castle together. Your Highness, you're here. The madam has been waiting for you. Su Bei walked out from an inconspicuous corner. He was also dressed in black and he wore a hood that concealed his face. This is Su Bei, one of my guards. However, he's always been in charge of guarding this place, Li Mo explained to Yun Ruoyan. Of the guards, Yun Ruoyan was most familiar with Su Nan. As for Su Dong, Su Bei and Su Shi, she had only heard of them from Li Mo. However, Yun Ruoyan recognized Su Bei's voice as the one who had spoken to Li Mo that day in the southern tower of Kongming Academy. This must be Miss Yun. The madam has been waiting for a long time. This way, please, Su Bei said to Yun Ruoyan as he pulled down his hood to reveal his true appearance. Yun Ruoyan saw a man with a resolute face. On the left side of his face, there was a slanted knife scar that extended from his forehead to his chin, making his resolute features seem even sharper. As Yun Ruoyan looked at Su Bei's resolute and sharp face, she couldn't help but feel that it was somewhat familiar. Yes, it was Zhou Yifeng. However, Zhou Yifeng was still a young man and in front of Su Bei he appeared somewhat immature. However, his resolute and sharp aura was extremely similar. Yun Ruoyan didn't know of the relationship between Zhou Yifeng and Su Bei, and she didn't think much of it. She only treated it as a coincidence. After a brief moment of surprise, she nodded at Su Bei and followed behind Li Mo, following Su Bei into the secret chamber. Very quickly, the three of them arrived at the door of the chamber and Su Bei opened it for them to enter. Yun Ruoyan glanced at Li Mo. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Was the madam that Su Bei spoke of, the secret that Li Mo said he would protect for the rest of his life, the person she was thinking of? Filled with nervousness, doubt and excitement, Yun Ruian couldn't help but walk into the chamber ahead of Liemo. "Miss Yun, how are you?" As soon as Yun Ruian stepped into the chamber, she heard a pleasant but cold female voice. At the same time, Yun Ruian saw a statue of a woman carved from jade standing in the middle of the chamber, surrounded by all sorts of spiritual herbs, pills and other spiritual items that she couldn't name. The entire chamber was filled with dense spiritual energy. "Miss Yun, I've often heard Immortal mention you, and today I've finally seen you in person. You're truly a beautiful young lady." That pleasant and cold voice clearly came from the mouth of the jade carving woman. This time the tone seemed much more amiable. "You are?" Yun Ruian finally asked after a moment of shock. "She's my mother, Empress Xue Tong of the Beastkin Kingdom." Li Mo's voice rang out from behind Yun Ruian. Li Mo walked up to Yun Ruian and bowed to the statue. "Mother, I've brought Yen'er to pay my respects to you." Yun Ruian pays her respects. Yun Ruian hurriedly followed Li Mo's lead and bowed to Empress Xue Tong. "Dispense with the formalities," Xue Tong said. "Miss Yun, did my appearance frighten you?" Yun Ruian hurriedly raised her head to look at Empress Xue Tong. "No, I'm just a little surprised." Empress Xue Tong was clearly a jade statue that couldn't move, but Yun Ruian could feel her gaze on her face. "Li Mo mentioned you to me before." Yun Ruian calmed herself. Yun Ruian calmed herself down and looked at Xue Tong. "He said that you'd been kidnapped by the silver dragons, so I was a little surprised to see you here." Yun Ruian glanced at Li Mo, a little upset that he hadn't told her about this beforehand. "Li Mo didn't lie to you," Empress Xue Tong sighed. Xue Tong sighed and said, "I was indeed taken away by the elders of the Silver Dragon clan. What I'm talking to you now is only a remnant of my soul in this jade statue." "Li Mo didn't tell you not because he didn't trust you, but because this is a matter of life and death. The Silver Dragons don't know that I still have this remnant of my soul on the Qinyuan continent, and once they do they'll surely send someone else. Once the secret is revealed, the Silver Dragons will come looking for you first." Empress Xue Tong's amiable voice turned cold and serious once more. "Thus, this secret of mine is both a responsibility and a danger to all who know of it. And now if you marry Li Mo, you'll be embroiled in this danger. I hope you'll understand this clearly." Chapter 292. If you're afraid, it's not too late to regret it. Xue Tong continued, "I can make you forget everything you've seen and heard today. Of course, your marriage with Li Mo will also be called off. I'm not afraid and I won't regret it. I'm willing to shoulder our responsibilities together with Li Mo," Yun Ruian replied without hesitation. She looked toward Li Mo, whose gaze was also on her. "Li Mo, will you make me regret it?" Yun Ruian's eyes shone brightly. "As long as I'm in your heart, no matter what price I have to pay, I won't regret it." In the past, Yun Ruian had always strived to live a better life than she had in her last life. Now, however, she had a new mission. Li Mo's mission was her mission. Li Mo's eyes shone brightly as he looked at Yun Ruian. "I, Li Mo, swear to my father that I will never betray you. If I break this oath, let me—" Just as Li Mo was about to swear an oath, Yun Ruian covered his mouth. "If you betray me, you and I will be separated for all eternity, never to see each other again." Li Mo frowned as he held Yun Ruian's hand. Her words pierced his heart more deeply than any oath he could make. To be separated from his Yen'er for the rest of his life was indeed more painful than being struck by lightning or pierced by arrows. "All right." Li Mo managed to force the word out of his mouth. "You're truly a good child. My son didn't fall in love with the wrong person," Empress Xue Tong praised. "Su Bei." Empress Xue Tong called out to Su Bei, who was standing outside the secret chamber. "Madam." Su Bei walked into the chamber and bowed to Empress Xue Tong. "Bring me the present I've prepared for Miss Yun." Su Bei walked into a side room of the secret chamber. A few moments later he returned with a long jade box in his arms. He opened the box and Yun Ruian couldn't help but stare at Su Bei. Yun Ruian saw a blinding red light emanating from the box, and she subconsciously covered her eyes with her hands. When the red light dissipated, Yun Ruian could clearly see a scarlet spiritual sword within the box. "This sword is called Scarlet Eye. This sword was once used by my husband Li Mo's father, the late Beast King, when he was young. Later on, after His Majesty achieved great success in his cultivation method, he no longer needed this sword. Thus, this sword has been kept in the secret room. It has already been several decades since then. Yun Ruoyan looked at Qi Tong. She could clearly feel the dense fire-attuned spiritual energy emanating from it, and it seemed to resonate with the Qilin bracelet on its wrist. As soon as this feeling formed in Yun Ruoyan's heart, the bracelet on her wrist turned red. At the same time, Yun Ruoyan felt the fire elemental spiritual energy in her dantian's spiritual sea churn. This kind of churning was just a sign of sudden activity, and she didn't feel any discomfort. Instead, she felt a sense of excitement. Qi Tong's eyes glowed red once again after the red glow disappeared. However, this time the red glow was no longer the blinding red that was used to defend or attack. Instead, it was a gentle red glow that resembled the sunset glow. This gentle red glow seemed to summon Yun Ruoyan. Involuntarily, she reached into the jade box and took Qi Tong in her hand. The Qilin bracelet had been forged from the Beast King's own fire-attuned spiritual energy, and it contained the Beast King's spiritual energy. Moreover, Qi Tong was the Beast King's personal sword, so it was extremely familiar with the Beast King's spiritual energy. Yun Ruoyan's fire-attuned spiritual energy had been greatly influenced by the Qilin bracelet ever since it was forged, and it was inevitable that it would contain the Beast King's spiritual energy. The combination of all the above factors led to the current situation. This is amazing. Yun Ruoyan held Qi Tong in her hand, and even Su Bei couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. This sword is indeed fated with you. Empress Xue Tong let out a long sigh after recovering from her shock. Apart from the intense fire-attuned spiritual energy, is there anything else special about this sword? Yun Ruoyan asked, noticing that the three people beside her, including Li Mo, were all shocked when she picked up the scarlet pupil sword. Miss Yun, you might not know this, but this Qi Tong sword was forged from inferno iron that my husband extracted from a volcano when he was young, Empress Xue Tong explained. As a result, it's so hot that ordinary people wouldn't be able to touch it. In particular, when it glows red, its heat is unimaginable. Only this 1,000-year-old jade box can offset its heat, and I thought that no one other than my husband would be able to pick it up with their bare hands. So it's that powerful. Yun Ruoyan held the hilt of Qi Tong's sword in her right hand and placed the middle and index fingers of her left hand on the blade. Not only did she not feel the slightest heat, but rather a cool sensation. Thank you, Empress. Yun Ruoyan thanked Empress Xue Tong happily. This really is a good sword. You're welcome. There was a rare smile in Empress Xue Tong's voice. I heard from Li Mo that you're already an 8th rank blade master. Once an 8th rank blade master became an 8th rank blade master, they would be able to use spiritual swords as a flying type spiritual artifact. However, spiritual swords that could be used as flying type spiritual artifacts were extremely rare, and it was even rarer to find one that suited one's needs. Only a cultivator who could use a sword of their own could become a true blade master. As a result, there were quite a few 8th rank blade masters on the Qinyuan continent, but very few of them could become true blade masters in the future. The reason for this was that they couldn't find a sword that was both precious and suitable for them. As a result, even as an 8th rank blade master, she desperately wanted to cultivate a flying sword, but she hadn't been able to find a suitable one on such short notice. She hadn't expected to get her wish so soon. Yun Ruoyan happily brandished Qi Tong in the air, creating a dazzling flower of light. Originally, I wanted to refine this cold jade box into a scabbard for you so that you could refine Qi Tong into a flying sword. I didn't expect you to be able to use it directly. Xue Tong said, this saves me a lot of effort. Yun Ruoyan reluctantly placed Qi Tong back into the box, thanking Xue Tong once more. This is a token of mother's sincerity. Don't thank her again, Li Mo interjected. Indeed. Xue Tong smiled. In my current state, I won't be able to attend your wedding. As a mother, this Qi Tong is a wedding gift to you, my daughter-in-law. Thank you, Empress. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but thank her out of habit. Li Mo couldn't help but smile and shake his head. Are you still calling me Empress? Xue Tong followed Li Mo's example and called Yun Ruoyan by her nickname. You should call me Mother instead. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but turn to Li Mo, who nodded at her before kneeling down in front of Empress Xue Tong, holding her hand. I've brought my fiancé Yunruan to kowtow to mother in advance, Liemo said, then bowed deeply to Empress Xuetong. Kowtow to mother. Yunruan followed Liemo's lead and bowed deeply as well. Get up, my dear child. Xuetong seemed a little agitated and her usually cold voice began to tremble. After Liemo and Yunruan bowed to Empress Xuetong, the three of them began discussing matters related to the wedding. Although Yunlan hadn't yet agreed to Liemo's proposal, Liemo was confident in his abilities, so Yunlan wouldn't be an obstacle to their marriage. As for the Emperor Li Xiu, he had always respected Liemo, so he was even less of an obstacle. As for those who knew of Yunruyan's master-disciple relationship with Liemo, the two of them didn't mind. As a result, the three of them began discussing the exact date of the wedding. Liemo wanted it to be as early as possible, but Yunruyan didn't have any specific requirements. In the end, Empress Xuetong set the date at the beginning of next spring, the day after Yunruyan's coming of age. You shouldn't come to my place often, Xuetong said. You've already kowtowed today, so there's no need for you to pay your respects after the wedding. After the wedding, Yenner and I will begin a new round of training, and then we'll head straight into the other dimension. I don't know how long we'll be gone, so please take care, mother. Then the two of them left the secret chamber with the Crimson Eye sword. Congratulations, Your Highness, on finding a good match. Su Bei congratulated Liemo in front of the castle. Liemo flipped his hand and an emerald sword appeared in his palm. This sword is called Emerald Song, Liemo explained. This is a wood-attuned sword and Zhou Yifeng is already an 8th rank blade master. This sword is just right for him. Thank you, Your Highness. Su Bei accepted the sword, his tone both excited and delighted. In a year's time, Zhou Yifeng will be accompanying me into the other dimension. I hope you'll be able to grasp the opportunity to reunite with him. Su Bei nodded but didn't say anything else. A green sword aura appeared beneath Liemo's feet, and he took to the skies with Yunruyan speeding toward the capital. The sky was already turning bright in the east. The first thing the two of them did when they arrived at the imperial city was to go to the Yun family together to inform Yunlan of the wedding. Not long after Yunruyan and Liemo left, a white-robed, white-haired old man walked out from a side chamber of the secret chamber. This old man was none other than the first elder of Kongming Academy. Empress, what you're doing is sure to incur Sun Mo's displeasure and resentment one day. Please reconsider, the first elder advised. First elder, there's no need to say more, Empress Xuetong immediately responded. Empress Xuetong said immediately, her voice even colder than before. Compared to exterminating the Silver Dragon clan and killing my husband to protect me, I can bear Immerse's resentment. How's the matter I've entrusted you with? I've already gone to the demonic dragon tomb, met with the demonic dragon's soul and conveyed your message, the first elder replied. What do they want? Empress Xuetong asked anxiously. They wish to speak with you in person, the great elder said. Chapter 293. The first elder told Empress Xuetong that the demonic dragon's soul in the demonic dragon tomb wished to speak with her in person. Empress Xuetong didn't agree or reject the offer. Instead, she fell into deep thought. Empress, you must be careful. You've been hiding here for more than a decade and it's too risky to leave now, the first elder advised. Although the elders of the Silver Dragon clan didn't know that a sliver of Empress Xuetong's soul remained on the Qinyuan continent, Empress Xuetong knew that there were spies of the Silver Dragon clan on the continent. These spies' whereabouts were extremely mysterious, and Empress Xuetong only knew that the Yuelu Villa was one of the Silver Dragon's minions. All these years, Liemo had battled with them and rescued quite a few beastman slaves from the Yuelu Villa's clutches. However, Empress Xuetong wasn't sure of their other movements. If she were to be discovered by the Silver Dragons on this trip, the consequences would be dire. This was what worried Empress Xuetong the most. After a moment of thought, Empress Xuetong finally spoke up. It's indeed dangerous to leave this place, but it's worth the risk. First elder, please make preparations with Su Bei. I've decided to personally go to the demonic dragon tomb to speak with the demonic dragon elder. The first elder knew that once Empress Xuetong had made a decision, no one could change her mind. All right, I'll go make the preparations. The first elder walked out of the secret chamber. At daybreak, Li Mo brought Yun Ruoyan back to the slaughtering king's manor. The proposal of marriage was an important matter, and both of them felt that it wasn't appropriate for them to appear so travel-worn. As soon as they arrived at the manor, Li Mo had Li Luo prepare new clothes and hot water for them to bathe in. Ever since Yun Ruoyan had spent a night with Li Mo, the slaughtering king's manor had prepared a set of clothes for her. Don't I have to be present during the proposal? Yun Ruoyan asked. Shouldn't I return to the Yun manor first and wait for the news in my cottage? There's no need for all that trouble. You can just come with me. Li Mo couldn't help but laugh at Yun Ruoyan's obvious nervousness. Are you shy? Shy? Yun Ruoyan's eyes widened. Of course I'm not shy. It's just that I'm the sole wife-born daughter of a prominent family, and I have to be more reserved. I can't possibly act like I can't get married, can I? Reserved. Li Mo couldn't help but laugh. Is that how you act? Li Mo smiled as he pulled Yun Ruoyan into his embrace and lowered his head to kiss her. Your Highness, Miss Yun, the hot water for bathing is ready. Li Luo suddenly appeared in front of the door and said to the two. She immediately lowered her head. Let's take a bath and change our clothes, then we'll go to the Yun manor to ask for your father's hand in marriage. Li Mo murmured as he looked down at the little girl in his arms. Us. Yun Ruoyan looked up at Li Mo, her face red. Shall we bathe together? Li Mo's smile widened. If you'd like to. Yun Ruoyan immediately pushed away from Li Mo's chest. When she saw Li Mo's smile, she knew that he was teasing her. Don't be angry. Li Mo continued teasing her. The bathtubs in my manor are too small, and it'll be too cramped for two people to bathe together. When marries me, I'll have someone build a bathtub and we can play in the water together. What do you think? Li Mo's words were so seductive that Yun Ruoyan blushed. She glanced at Li Luo, who was standing at the door with her head lowered, and revealed a rare expression of a little girl. She covered her face and ran out to grab Li Luo, saying, Sister Li Luo, don't listen to His Highness's nonsense. Hurry and take me to a bath. After bathing in the guest room, Yun Ruoyan put on the new clothes that Li Luo had prepared for her, a fiery red dress embroidered with a phoenix flower. Yun Ruoyan usually wore light clothes that were more convenient for her to move about. In the winter she only wore a shawl. Because of her cultivation she didn't feel cold. This fiery red dress was slightly more formal than her usual attire, but it wasn't as cumbersome as a formal dress. Yun Ruoyan liked it very much. His Highness designed it himself, Li Luo explained. After putting on the new dress, Yun Ruoyan sat in front of the mirror and let Li Luo comb her hair. She hadn't put on a veil, nor had she put on a fake birthmark. When Li Luo entered the room and saw Yun Ruoyan's true appearance, she was stunned for a long while before she recovered from her shock. His Highness has always had good taste. Miss Yun, you look really good in this fiery red dress, Li Luo praised as she combed Yun Ruoyan's hair. Sister Li Luo, you should call me Ruoyan instead of Miss Yun, alright? This wasn't the first time Yun Ruoyan had said this. The fact that the woman her brother liked was so respectful to her made her feel very uncomfortable. I'll have to change the way I address you, Miss Yun. Li Luo smiled. I should call you consort. Sister Li Luo, I'm not married yet, so I can't just call you that. Yun Ruoyan blushed once more. Although she'd already had the experience of marrying someone in her past life, she felt as if this was her first time, and she was still nervous and shy. Sister Li Luo, His Highness sent me to ask if you're ready. It's getting late, a servant's voice came from outside. Got it, I'll be ready soon, Li Luo replied. The Li Kingdom is particular about proposing in the morning. It's almost noon now and His Highness must be anxious. Li Luo's hands sped up as she spoke. Yun Ruoyan wasn't of marriageable age yet, so her hair couldn't be tied up in a complicated bun. However, Li Luo skillfully braided a few strands of hair for Yun Ruoyan, then tied them into 2 strands and draped them over her shoulders. This kind of hairstyle was both beautiful and neat. It was both playful and cute, and it exuded a heroic spirit. Coupled with the fiery red dress, her entire person was like a fiery red skylark, agile and lively. When Li Mo saw Yun Ruoyan in this state, he couldn't help but smile. His Highness only smiles like this when he sees Miss Yun, Li Luo murmured to herself. Li Mo walked toward Yun Ruoyan and took her small hand in his. Let's go. The two of them walked out of the slaughtering king's manor hand in hand and boarded the carriage together. The servant signaled for the carriage to start moving in the direction of the Yun manor. Liemo, when you're done with my father, I have something to say to you, Yun Ruoyan said to Liemo. All right. Liemo replied softly. An hour later, the carriage stopped in front of the Yun manor. When the servants saw the slaughtering king and Yun Ruoyan disembark from the carriage, they immediately ran to report to Yun Lan. Liemo, on the other hand, held Yun Ruoyan's hand as they boldly entered the manor and headed for the main hall. What did you say? Say it again. Yun Lan was in his study, going through documents that he hadn't finished last night, when he suddenly heard a servant report that the slaughtering king and Yun Ruoyan had arrived. Master, His Highness, the slaughtering king, is currently holding the young Mrs. hand and heading towards the main hall, the servant repeated. It's too immoral to do that in public, Yun Lan said as he stood up from behind the desk and rushed to the hall. What did you say? The slaughtering king is holding my sister's hand and heading for the main hall? At the same time, Yun Moxiao, who was cultivating in his own garden, also received the servant's report. The slaughtering king, they're too brazen. It looks like Yen really isn't going to marry anyone but him, Yun Moxiao thought. Although the Li kingdom wasn't particularly conservative, it was still a taboo for a man and a woman to interact in public, especially if their relationship hadn't been confirmed yet. Things were even more complicated for Liemo and Yun Ruoyan, because they were master and disciple. Fortunately, the servants of the Yun manor weren't aware of this fact. Otherwise, within half a day, news of this master-disciple relationship would have spread far and wide, and Yun Ruoyan's already poor reputation would have worsened even further. Madam! Xiao Lan, the Yun matriarch's personal maid, rushed into the room. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? Madam, the slaughtering king has come to propose marriage to master again, Xiao Lan informed the Yun matriarch. Why again? The Yun matriarch frowned. Last time Ruoyan had to sneak out to avoid him. Why is he here again? Yun Lan managed to get rid of him last time. Is he going to do it this time? The Yun matriarch didn't have a good impression of the slaughtering king. A cold-blooded killer like him wasn't her ideal son-in-law. No, it's not like that. Xiao Lan waved her hands anxiously. Madam, why don't you go and take a look yourself? I'm afraid it's going to be difficult to get rid of this time. Not long after Yun Ruoyan and Liemo arrived at the main hall, Yun Lan, Yun Moxiao and the Yun matriarch arrived one after another. Even Madame Qin Jianmei arrived with Yun Ruoyu. Ever since Madame Anne's madness, Qin Jianmei had temporarily taken over the role of mistress of the manor, handling all of Madame Anne's affairs. As a result, it wasn't surprising that she was here. Greetings, slaughtering king. As soon as Yun Lan entered the room, he bowed to Yun Lan as usual, but Liemo immediately stopped him from bowing. At the same time, he turned to the crowd behind Yun Lan. I'm not here today as the slaughtering king, but as a junior to ask official Yun to marry your daughter Yun Ruoyan to me. Slaughtering king. Before Yun Lan could speak, the Yun matriarch spoke up from behind him. As you know, Yen'er is not only the daughter of the Yun family, but also a student of Kongming Academy. As a result, not only must we listen to our parents and matchmakers, but we must also listen to her opinion. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel a little touched by the Yun matriarch's words. She knew that the Yun matriarch was afraid that Yun Lan would use her marriage as a bargaining chip, which was why she had hurried over to protect her. Grandmother. Yun Ruoyan walked up to the Yun matriarch and grabbed her arm. I'm willing to marry the slaughtering king. Chapter 294. Worried that Yun Ruoyan would be bullied, the Yun matriarch had rushed over to help her out, but she didn't know that Yun Ruoyan had come willingly. You have to listen to your own desires. Don't make the wrong choice because of external pressure and you'll ruin your marriage. The Yun matriarch was still a little worried. Even if you haven't found someone you like yet, there's no need to rush. You'll only be of marriageable age after the start of the new year, so there's no harm in waiting a little longer. With Grandma here, you don't have to worry about anything. Yun Ruoyan glanced at Liemo, both of them unsure whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that Liemo was so disliked by the old lady that it was a surprise to both of them. After all, with the slaughtering king's reputation, many families had tried to curry favor with Liemo over the years, and there were many young misses who admired Liemo's reputation as well. However, Li Mo's cold, unapproachable demeanor had caused them to shrink back. Unexpectedly, the slaughtering king had personally come to propose marriage, and the Yun matriarch had rejected him without hesitation. Moreover, she didn't know that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were master and disciple. It was clear that Yun Ruoyan's filial piety toward the Yun matriarch had finally been rewarded with her sincere treatment. "Grandmother, thank you for your love. No one's forcing me and I'm really willing." Yun Ruoyan looked at the Yun matriarch gratefully. The Yun matriarch was at a loss. She had heard that Li Mo was interested in Yun Ruoyan, and Yun Lan had naturally wanted to facilitate the marriage. However, she hadn't known that Yun Ruoyan was actually interested in Li Mo. "Mother, please leave this matter to me," Yun Lan said to the Yun matriarch. "Ah." The Yun matriarch patted Yun Ruoyan's hand and sighed. "It looks like I'm really getting old. You juniors should make your own decisions." The Yun matriarch then turned to Yun Lan. "Let me tell you, no matter what, you mustn't mistreat Ruoyan. Our daughter is worthy of marrying a slaughtering king." "Don't worry, mother. All right, I'm quite tired as well. If the slaughtering king doesn't mind, I'll take my leave," the Yun matriarch said to Li Mo. Because Li Mo had said that he was proposing as a junior, the Yun matriarch's casual attitude was a sign of her approval of him. "Grandmother, take care," Li Mo replied. Although he didn't bow, his tone was still respectful. As she watched the Yun matriarch leave, Yun Ruoyan thought to herself, "It seems like grandmother doesn't know that I'm not of the Yun family." She had suspected that the Luxia knew about her past because in her previous life, the Luxia had been very cold to her. She was given the cold shoulder by Yun Lan and was expelled from the family academy. The Luxia clearly knew about these things, but she never asked. But now, it seems that Luxia didn't know about her past. There may be two reasons why she was cold to her in the past. First, the Yun matriarch didn't like Lin Yueme. As the saying goes, love the house, love the crow. Secondly, Yun Ruoyan's personality in her past life had never been likable. Could it be that other than Yun Lan, no one else in the Yun family knew of her parentage? Otherwise, why had no one mentioned it to her all these years, and she only found out about it now through other means? Madame Qin greets the slaughtering king. Qin Jianmei, Yun Ruoyu and Yun Maxiao all stepped forward to pay their respects. "At ease," Li Mo said amiably. "Today I've personally come to propose a marriage. There's no need to stand on ceremony." Although Li Mo had said that he wasn't here as the slaughtering king, no one dared to ignore the fact that he was the slaughtering king. As a result, when he and Yun Ruoyan stood together in the Great Hall, the others, including Yun Lan, didn't dare sit down. Qin Jianmei, Yun Ruoyu and Yun Maxiao stood to one side. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan stood side by side in the center of the Great Hall, while Yun Lan stood in front of them. After the Yun matriarch's display, Li Mo felt that there were no more obstacles to his proposal, but he still had to go through the motions. With a flip of his hand, Li Mo retrieved a sandalwood box containing the cloud sky fruit. Yun Ruoyan hadn't been present the last time Li Mo had proposed, and Yun Lan had used the excuse that he hadn't agreed immediately. As a result, the cloud sky fruit was still in Li Mo's hands. "Official Yun Yenner and I are very fond of each other, and we've already set a date for our wedding. I hope you'll agree." Li Mo handed the box to Yun Lan. Yun Lan looked at Li Mo, then at Yun Ruoyan before finally accepting the box. "Your Highness, it would be an honor for the Yun family to be betrothed to you, but your master-disciple relationship puts me in a difficult position. Official Yun, there's no need to feel troubled. I'll have the emperor announce the marriage to the world. Even if there's a public outcry, the Yun family's reputation won't be tarnished." Only then did Yun Lan truly relax. With Li Mo's suggestion, the two of them began discussing the details of the wedding. Most of the Yun household's affairs were now under Qin Jianmei's control, so she joined in the discussion. It took the three of them a full 4 hours to finalize the details of the wedding. "I didn't expect you to be such a meticulous person, Your Highness, to personally ask about such complicated matters," Qin Jianmei exclaimed. Weddings were extremely complicated, and most wealthy families would have their stewards take care of them. What Qin Jianmei hadn't expected was that Li Mo would personally ask about every detail. Li Mo smiled faintly. "I want to give Yenner a flawless wedding." Li Mo turned to Yun Ruoyan, who was smiling back at him. When their gazes met, their smiles deepened. Yun Lan should have been happy to see the two of them like this. After all, Yun Ruoyan was the sole wife-born daughter of the Yun family, and both he and the Yun family would have to bask in her glory in the future. However, Yun Lan's feelings were rather complicated. He couldn't help but think of Lin Yueme's request to him, how she had tearfully begged him to take good care of Yun Ruoyan for the sake of their relationship. When Yun Lan saw that Lin Yueme was on her deathbed, he reluctantly agreed. In the first few years, Yun Lan had been able to maintain his affection for Lin Yueme through Yun Ruoyan, but as time passed and as Yun Ruoyan's appearance grew uglier and her cultivation regressed, that affection gradually turned into disgust. Yun Lan had almost given up on Yun Ruoyan and allowed her to perish on her own. What he hadn't expected was that Yun Ruoyan would be able to stand up again on her own. Not only had she managed to stand up again, she had even managed to cling on to the slaughtering king. This was Lin Yueme's daughter. No, she was his and Lin Yueme's daughter. Official Yun, if there's nothing else, we'll be taking our leave. I'll be leaving some instructions to the 3 matchmakers tomorrow, Li Mo said. Li Mo pulled Yun Ruoyan out of the main hall, and Yun Maxiao followed behind them. Li Mo had intended to bring Yun Ruoyan directly back to the slaughtering king's manor, but Yun Ruoyan requested to return to her rooms. Brother, come with us to my rooms. I have something to tell you, Yun Ruoyan said to her brother. Inside her rooms, Yun Ruoyan had Peony and Xilan dismissed the crowd before turning to Yun Maxiao. Brother, I'm about to marry Li Mo, so I don't want to hide anything from him. However, this isn't just about me but about me and my sister, so I hope to get your permission before I tell Li Mo. Yun Maxiao naturally knew what Yun Ruoyan was referring to. After a moment's thought he replied, Slaughtering King, of course I can trust you. Moreover, with your help, we might be able to find our mother's whereabouts even faster. With Yun Maxiao's approval, Yun Ruoyan no longer had any reservations. He told Li Mo everything they knew about Lin Yueme. You're saying that your mother might still be alive? Li Mo asked. That's right. It's very likely that our mother isn't dead, so we've been investigating her whereabouts. I'm going to the city to look for a physician who treated our mother when she was gravely ill. We want to know the truth about our mother's condition from her mouth, Yun Ruoyan continued. Also, I want to find out how our mother was poisoned, who poisoned her, and what kind of hatred did they have for our mother that they wouldn't even let me off. As for the broodmother parasite in Yun Ruoyan's body, she had told Li Mo everything she knew about the broodmother parasite when she told him that it had been cured. Li Mo had also ordered his men to investigate the whereabouts of the shamanic descendant who had poisoned Lin Yueme, but strangely enough, even though there were traces of their presence around the capital, it was as if they had vanished into thin air. Have you found that physician? Li Mo asked Yun Ruoyan. I've found him, Yun Ruoyan replied. Where is Physician Tseng? After you left yesterday, I wanted to bring him back to the Yun Manor, but as soon as he reached the gates of the Yun Manor, he was so frightened that he refused to enter and even tried to run away. I had no choice but to bring him back to the Lin Manor, and he's currently locked up there. This Physician Tseng must know something, Li Mo concluded. Let's go take a look at this Physician Tseng first. The 3 of them headed straight to the Lin Manor, where Lin Zainan personally brought them to a small courtyard to find Physician Tseng. As soon as they entered the small courtyard, Physician Tseng, who was sitting in the yard, stood up and complained, Miss Yun, I'm here on the orders of His Highness. Why did you lock me up? Physician Tseng, I brought you all the way back from Wu City because I wanted to ask you a few questions, not because I want you to give me a diagnosis. Yun Ruoyan didn't beat around the bush at all. You want to ask me a few questions? Physician Tseng's face was visibly pale as he slowly sat down on a chair. When he spoke again, his voice was subconsciously softer. I don't know any of you, so what would I know? Chapter 295. Physician Tseng's expression was clearly one of guilt. Yun Ruoyan immediately turned to him. Let me ask you, do you know of the Yun family? So what if I do? Physician Tseng raised his voice slightly. The Yun family is so famous in the Li Kingdom that anyone with a bit of knowledge would know of them. In that case, do you know of the 100 Herb Hall? Physician Tseng's pale face turned as white as a sheet of paper. The 100 Herb Hall was a medical center that Yun Lan had opened for him in the capital. Since Yun Ruoyan even knew of the 100 Herb Hall, Physician Tseng knew that there was no way he could deny it now. Who are you exactly? Physician Tseng finally looked directly at Yun Ruoyan, Yun Maxiao, Li Mo, and Lin Zainan. All four of them had an extraordinary aura, and it was obvious that they weren't ordinary people. Who we are isn't important to you, Physician Tseng, Yun Maxiao said. All you need to do is answer our questions. What do you want to know? We want to know the true cause of death of the Yun Manor's young madam. Lin Zainan, who had been silent all this time, took 2 steps forward and looked at Physician Tseng. Although Lin Zainan was already 70 years old, his eyes were still sharp and bright. Only someone with exceptional willpower would dare to look him in the eye when he was angry. Physician Tseng only glanced at Lin Zainan briefly before turning his gaze elsewhere, as if he were deep in thought. The young madam of the Yun Manor? Physician Tseng thought for a moment. It's been so long I can't remember. Liar. Yun Maxiao exposed him. Yesterday I brought you to the Yun Manor. Why were you so afraid that you wanted to run away? Yun Maxiao's tone was so severe that Physician Tseng trembled in fear. Yun Ruian waved her hand at her brother, then walked over to Physician Tseng and sat down on a stone bench opposite him. Physician Tseng, I don't think you're a malicious person, so why are you covering up for someone else? Tell us everything you know and we'll immediately send you back to Wu City, back to your family, Yun Ruian continued slowly. But if you insist on refusing to tell us, then we won't be so polite to you. With my friendship with your prince, even if I killed you it wouldn't be a big deal. Yun Ruian could tell that this Physician Tseng was a timid man. His behavior indicated that he definitely knew something, but perhaps because he was threatened he refused to reveal anything. As a result, Yun Ruian decided to give him a scare, hoping to scare his mouth open. However, Yun Ruian seemed to have underestimated Physician Tseng. Although he was scared, his mouth was tightly shut. After a long while, when the sky was almost dark, Dr. Tseng refused to say a word. His head drooped listlessly as if he were about to fall asleep. No matter who tried to speak to him, he would not respond. Looks like it's time to loosen his muscles. Yun Maxiao was a little anxious and he was about to use force when Yun Ruian stopped him. Brother, you can't. Yun Ruian exclaimed. Look at him. If you hit him twice he'll probably die. How are we supposed to find any clues then? But we can't just keep wasting time with him. We have to think of something else, Yun Maxiao said anxiously. Qiuqiu? Yun Ruian called out to Qiuqiu in her mind. Mistress, what's the matter? Qiuqiu woke up from its meditation. Why isn't my bewitching powder effective on this Physician Tseng? Yun Ruian asked. Just now, when she saw that threatening Physician Tseng had no effect, she had used the remaining bewitching powder on him. If used on the same person continuously within a short period of time, it would damage the person's brain, so Yun Ruian hadn't used it right from the start. However, she couldn't care less now, so she used the remaining bewitching powder on Physician Tseng. However, the bewitching powder that had always been effective on Physician Tseng was now completely ineffective. At this moment he seemed to have lost his soul, and Yun Ruian's words were like wind passing by his ears. Is it because I used too little? Yun Ruian asked, puzzled. Physician Tseng's just a commoner and he doesn't have much spiritual energy. The remaining bewitching powder is more than enough for him, Qiuqiu replied. And from the looks of it he's under the effects of the bewitching powder. Then why isn't he listening to me? Yun Ruian had done quite a number of things in Wu City with a bag of bewitching powder, and even demons couldn't resist it at all. Why was it suddenly ineffective against this Physician Tseng? There can only be one reason for this, Qiuqiu replied. Qiuqiu thought for a moment before replying. What you're asking is very important to him, so he's subconsciously resisting it. Mistress, what you're asking him must be more important than his own life. Even more important than his own life. No wonder he's so tight-lipped. Li Mo's voice suddenly interrupted Yun Ruian's thoughts. Go and dispel the bewitching powder. Yes. Yun Ruian paused for a moment before proceeding to dispel the bewitching powder from Physician Tseng. As if he had just dozed off, Physician Tseng suddenly woke up and stared blankly at the 4 people in front of him. From what you said, does this Physician Tseng have family in Wu City? Li Mo asked abruptly. His tone was casual, but Physician Tseng's body stiffened when he heard it. Yes, he has a wife and children. Yun Ruian thought back to the clothes she had seen hanging on the clothesline in the far-sighted king's manor. He has 3 children, a girl about 12 or 13 years old and 2 boys, a pair of twins, only 5 or 6 years old. This old man must be planning on staying here for a long time, Liemo continued nonchalantly. Liemo continued nonchalantly, not even glancing at Physician Tseng. Bring his wife and children here to accompany him if necessary. As Liemo spoke, he suddenly made a throat-slitting gesture. As Liemo spoke, Physician Tseng stared at him intently. As soon as he saw Liemo make such a gesture, his pale face turned black. What are you planning to do? Physician Tseng stood up from his seat, trembling as he looked at Liemo. This middle-aged man, who didn't even dare to look Yun Ruoyan in the eye, looked fearlessly into Liemo's dark, narrow eyes. Back then, when the young mistress of the Yun family passed away, she left behind 2 pitiful children. Liemo glanced at Physician Tseng from the corner of his eye, his tone emotionless. Since you're willing to associate yourself with evil people, then I'll let you have a taste of the pain of losing a family member. No, no, no. Physician Tseng's defenses were finally broken by Liemo. He stumbled to Liemo's feet and cried out, "This is all my fault and it has nothing to do with my family. I'll tell you everything, but you have to promise me one thing." What is it? Yun Ruoyan interjected. Let me bear the full brunt of my sins, but please don't implicate my family. Don't worry, we won't harm innocent women and children. Yun Moxiao said, just tell us everything you know. Alright, I'll tell you. Physician Tseng calmed himself down and began. 13 years ago, when Physician Tseng was visiting the Yun Manor, he saw a notice that the young mistress of the Yun family had fallen ill and was seeking a divine physician from the capital. At the time, Physician Tseng didn't have much money to spend on traveling, so he didn't think too much about it. Instead, he tore down the notice and entered the Yun Manor. When he examined Lin Yueme, he discovered that she wasn't ill but rather poisoned. Coincidentally, Physician Tseng's family had been traveling physicians for generations, and he had heard from his father that this illness was caused by a type of parasite. At the time, the young mistress of the Yun family was black all over, and she would vomit blood from time to time. This was exactly what my father had told me, and I happened to know the antidote for this particular parasite, Physician Tseng recalled. However, the young mistress of the Yun family was deeply poisoned, and I wasn't confident in my ability to cure her. As a result, I only said that I'd give it a try. After Physician Tseng administered a few doses of medicine, Lin Yueme's condition did indeed improve. In order to thank him, Yun Lan even opened a clinic for him in the capital. One day, however, someone from Physician Tseng's hometown sent him a message saying that his wife had suddenly fallen ill and was on the verge of death. I was so anxious that I wanted to return home immediately. It happened to be nighttime and I didn't have time to worry about the sky getting dark. Physician Tseng said, but just as I was about to leave, a woman wearing a veil suddenly walked in from outside. That woman told me that my wife wasn't suffering from any sort of illness, but rather that she had been poisoned by the same parasite that had afflicted the young mistress of the Yun family. However, this parasite was 10 times more potent and she was the one who had poisoned her. The woman took out 2 pills and showed them to Physician Tseng. One was the antidote for the parasite, and the other was a poison that would accelerate the poison's effects. That woman told me that my wife wouldn't be able to wait for me to return home and slowly nurse her back to health. If I wanted the antidote, I'd have to put the poison in the young mistress of the Yun family's medicine. As long as she died, someone would naturally give the antidote to my wife, Physician Tseng said as he sobbed. I didn't want to harm anyone, I really didn't, but my wife was already pregnant with my first child, and I didn't want to lose both of our lives. So, you put the poison that could speed up the poison into my mother's decoction. Yun Moxiao roared at Physician Tseng, his eyes bulging. Chapter 296. I didn't want to either, but my wife and my child. I couldn't just watch them die. Physician Tseng prostrated himself on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. From then on, I only treated women's ailments and never again treated people's illnesses or poisons. Over the past decade or so, I've never had a day of peace with my conscience. I know that you must be young Madame Yun's relatives, and that you've come to seek revenge on me. My death isn't to be regretted, but please spare my wife and child. They didn't know anything about this. Yun Ruoyan, Yun Moxiao and Lin Zainan listened to Physician Tseng's sobs, their hearts filled with grief and indignation. Lin Zainan staggered a few steps before his siblings helped him onto a stone stool. Grandfather, didn't you say that mother might still be alive? Don't be too sad, Yun Ruoyan whispered into Lin Zainan's ear. Only then did Lin Zainan slowly recover from his grief. Hearing with his own ears how others had harmed his most beloved daughter, this kind of feeling really pained him to the core. After a long while, Yun Ruoyan slowly knelt down by Physician Tsing's side. Your death truly isn't to be regretted, but there's someone more deserving of death than you. The woman who gave you the poison, do you know who she is? I don't know. Physician Tsing finally stopped crying. She was wearing a veil, and the veil around her veil extended all the way to the ground. Not only did it cover her face but even her body was obscured. Yun Ruoyan frowned deeply. In that case, even if you saw that woman again, you wouldn't be able to recognize her? I wouldn't be able to. Physician Tsing buried his head in his chest. He knew that if he could recognize that woman, then he would still have some value in his existence. But Physician Tsing didn't want to lie to his conscience in order to survive. Moreover, he wouldn't be able to deceive these people in front of him, and he might even bring trouble to his family. Rather than that, he might as well tell the truth. As Physician Tsing thought about this, he suddenly remembered a detail from that night he had spoken to that woman more than a decade ago. I remember now. Physician Tsing suddenly stood up from the ground. What did you think of? Everyone turned to look at him. Smell. Dr. Tsing spoke hurriedly, as if he would forget the image in his mind if he spoke too slowly. That woman has a very strange smell. How so? Yun Ruoyan asked hurriedly. I'm a doctor. I deal with herbs all year round, so my nose is especially sensitive to smells. So even after more than 10 years I can still remember that woman's scent. Dr. Tseng frowned as he recalled, saying, it was a very strange sandalwood scent, as if one had burned incense and prayed to Buddha all year round. Their clothes and bodies would be stained with the scent of sandalwood, but the scent was too strong. It wasn't quiet, it was very strange. The scent of sandalwood, left behind by years of burning incense and praying to Buddha. It's strong but not soothing, Yun Ruoyan repeated Physician Tsing's words. Have you thought of something? Li Mo asked when he saw her muttering to herself. Ruoyan, did you discover something? Yun Ma Xiao had also noticed his daughter's abnormality. Yun Ruoyan shook her head, but then she nodded and frowned. I think of someone, but I don't think it's possible. Who? Yun Ma Xiao asked hurriedly. Madame Lin Qin Jianmei. Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment before revealing her suspicions. Madame Lin. Yun Ma Xiao was also shocked. Ruoyan, are you sure you're not mistaken? How could Madame Qin be the woman who poisoned Mother? Li Mo and Lin Zainan weren't familiar with Qin Jianmei, so they didn't speak. Instead they listened to Yun Ruoyan and Yun Ma Xiao's analysis. I also hope that she's not. After all, she once took care of me, Yun Ruoyan said. But I've only smelled that strange sandalwood scent from Madame Qin before, and it's also from Madame Qin's body. It's just that it's very faint and it's hard to detect unless you're very close to her. Ruoyan, just the scent of sandalwood doesn't seem to be enough, Yun Ma Xiao replied. Yun Ma Xiao had a very good impression of Madame Qin. In his mind, she had always been a simple, elegant woman who didn't fight for anything. Could such a woman be their mother's murderer? Yun Ma Xiao couldn't believe it. That's not all, Yun Ruoyan continued. Ever since Madame Qin left the cottage, I feel like she's changed a lot. Even Yun Ruoyu has changed a lot. In the past, Qin Jianmei had rarely stepped out of the cottage, much less voluntarily enter the main hall to discuss matters with others. But now, not only did Qin Jianmei frequently leave the cottage, she was also in charge of all the affairs in the manor, as if she were the new mistress of the Yun manor. Similarly, Yun Ruoyu had changed a lot. Her once arrogant and willful personality had become so gentle and submissive. Those who didn't know her well would surely think that she had been born with a soft and gentle personality. Actually, everyone in the Yun manor had noticed the changes in Qin Jianmei and Yun Ruoyu. However, to everyone the change in the mother and daughter was a good thing. In the past, Qin Jianmei's cold personality had made it difficult for anyone to get close to her. Now, however, she smiled at everyone, was very polite and was very attentive. In the past, Yun Ruoyu would often scold her servants for their mistakes, but now she was very kind to them. As a result, everyone was happy to see the changes in the two of them. Even Yun Ma Xiao felt the same way. I only feel that Madame Qin and Ruoyu have become easier to get along with than before. There's nothing special about them, Yun Ma Xiao said. Yun Ruoyan, however, didn't think so. A leopard couldn't change its spots. Unless it was someone like her who had survived a life-and-death ordeal and been reborn, how could their personality change so drastically in such a short period of time? In that case, what exactly had happened to Qin Jianmei and Yun Ruoyu to make them seem like completely different people? Since you suspect her, you should investigate her. If she really is the woman who poisoned Yun Ruoyu 10 years ago, she'll surely leave behind some clues that will allow us to uncover the truth, Li Mo instructed. I'll send Mo Wei to investigate this matter as well. Physician Xing had thought that he was dead for sure, but unexpectedly Yun Ruoyan and the others had no intention of killing him. Before we find the woman who poisoned you, we can't let you go, Yun Ruoyan replied. I'll send someone to inform your wife and children, and the far-sighted king will take care of them. Just stay here and wait for the confrontation with that woman. After interrogating Physician Xing, they had a simple meal at the Lin Manor before leaving. By then the sky was completely dark. Ruoyan, aren't you coming home with me? Yun Maxiao asked as he watched Li Mo drag Yun Ruoyan toward the slaughtering king's carriage. Return to the manor with me, Li Mo said before Yun Ruoyan could respond. Yun Maxiao didn't know how to refute Li Mo's words. He naturally knew that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were often alone together. If Li Mo weren't a gentleman, the two of them would have long since done what they were supposed to do. That was something that he couldn't control or interfere with. But to see a man take away his underage sister so casually in the middle of the night, Yun Maxiao really found it hard to accept. Brother, I just received a sword yesterday and Li Mo wants to teach me how to use it. Yun Ruoyan turned back to her brother and smiled. Don't worry, I'll take care of myself. Yun Ruoyan grabbed Li Mo's hand and climbed into the carriage. The servant signaled for the carriage to move off in the direction of the slaughtering king's manor. A grown girl really can't be kept at home. Yun Maxiao couldn't help but sigh as he watched the carriage disappear around the corner of the road. When Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo arrived at the slaughtering king's manor, Li Mo immediately summoned Su Nan and had him investigate Qin Jianmei. After Su Nan left, Yun Ruoyan excitedly took out the scarlet eye and had Li Mo teach her how to use it. If you want to learn how to use it, you'll first have to learn the first part of the technique, Li Mo explained. The main purpose of the technique was to refine spiritual swords and make them one with the wielder's will. Once the spiritual sword was connected to the wielder's will, it could change its size according to the wielder's wishes. As for how much it could change, it was limited by the wielder's cultivation. When you're able to change the size of your spiritual sword at will, I'll teach you the second part of the technique. The second part of the technique is to learn how to control the direction of the spiritual sword's flight. Now I'll teach you the first part of the technique. As he spoke, Li Mo used his finger as a sword and lightly tapped Yun Ruoyan's head. A trace of spiritual energy entered her mind, and the contents of the first chapter of the Imperial Sword technique immediately appeared in her mind. If there's anything you don't understand, ask me, Li Mo instructed. Yun Ruoyan closed her eyes and sensed the technique in her mind. Very quickly she opened her eyes and picked up the scarlet eye sword. According to the technique, she infused her fire-attuned spiritual energy into the scarlet eye sword, then sent it back to her spiritual vortex. At the start, Qi Tong seemed to reject her spiritual energy a little when she tried to infuse it with her spiritual energy. However, after a few attempts, the fire-attuned spiritual energy in her body was able to flow freely between the scarlet eye and her spiritual vortex without the slightest hindrance. I've mastered the first stage of the technique and my mind is connected, Yun Ruoyan exclaimed excitedly. Even Li Mo was a little surprised by Yun Ruoyan's cultivation speed. The first stage of the Imperial Sword manipulation technique had allowed Yun Ruoyan to become one with her spiritual sword, and she had mastered it in less than 2 hours. Back then, Li Mo had used an entire day to communicate with his spirit sword through telepathy. Other cultivators, on the other hand, had taken months, years, or even decades. Alright, if you don't feel tired, start practicing the second stage of the technique, Li Mo instructed. At this rate, you'll be able to fly on your sword in less than 10 days. Chapter 297. The all-seeing mirror sat quietly on the top floor of Kongming Academy's southern tower. Moonlight shone through the 4 windows, illuminating the mirror with a faint bluish-black glow. A series of footsteps sounded, and a white-haired old man appeared before the mirror. In his hands was a statue of a woman about half a foot tall. It was none other than Empress Xue Tong. "Empress, this is the all-seeing mirror," the first elder said to the jade statue in his hands. The great elder said to the jade carving in his hand, "From here, you can directly enter the trial grounds with your divine sense." "All right, let's begin." A cold voice sounded from the statue's mouth. The first elder waved his hand at the all-seeing mirror, and the blue surface of the mirror lit up with white light. He closed his eyes and a dazzling spiritual light appeared between his brows. At the same time, a dazzling spiritual light also appeared between the brows of the woman he held in his hands. Two specks of spiritual light flew out at the same time and entered the all-seeing mirror. Empress Xue Tong's divine sense followed the first elder all the way to the lake in the oasis, and the demonic dragon's soul in the depths of the lake also sensed their presence. A huge black dragon phantom formed in the middle of the tomb, then spiraled upwards, lying horizontally on top of the tomb as it swam in the direction of Empress Xue Tong and the first elder, letting out a deafening roar. What a domineering dragon roar! Empress Xue Tong's voice came from afar. "Is this how the demonic dragons welcome their guests?" Xue Tong's body image formed by divine sense, dressed in a flowing silver gauze dress, followed the first elder to a distance of 100 feet from the inky dragon tomb. Then they stopped. The two of them confronted the black dragon image. "Empress Xue Tong, I've heard a lot about you." The black dragon's huge head moved slightly closer to Empress Xue Tong, who immediately felt an overbearing and powerful aura wash over her. The image she had formed with her divine sense actually began to fade in the face of this powerful aura. When the first elder saw this, he frowned slightly and put his hands behind his back, but a ball of spiritual light gradually appeared in his hands. Empress Xue Tong, however, seemed unaffected. She stood quietly in the middle of the lake like a jade statue. "It's a pity that you're only left with a remnant soul." The demon dragon retracted its huge head and retracted its spiritual pressure. Compared to the pity of the demon dragon clan, this little girl's pity is really not worth mentioning. Xue Tong, however, spoke up. "The demon dragon clan that once dominated the Qin abyss is now sealed in this pool, struggling at death's door. What a pity." When Xue Tong spoke, she used her spiritual power to make her voice spread throughout the entire demon dragon tomb. As soon as she finished speaking, the demon dragon tomb emitted countless dragon roars of various sizes. Some were low, some were loud, some were angry, and some were mournful. At the same time, countless green and scarlet dragon eyes flashed. The great elder, who had seen countless grand scenes, couldn't help but feel nervous in such a situation. He was ready to make a move at any moment. Empress Xue Tong was not affected at all. Her voice was cold and emotionless, but it could stir up the anger and misery in people's hearts. "You've been sealed here for 1,000 years. Don't you want to break through the shackles and return to the sky?" The image of Black Dragon looked at Xue Tong and narrowed its eyes. "The demon dragon bloodline has already appeared. The day we break through the seal is near. You don't have to worry about it, Empress." But hearing Black Dragon's words, Xue Tong actually laughed out loud. The bloodline of the demon dragon has been passed down from generation to generation. From 1,000 years ago until now, it has been passed down for no less than 100 generations. If it was as easy as Elder Xue Tong said, then as long as you found a descendant of the bloodline, you would be able to break the seal. As Xue Tong spoke, her sharp eyes stared at Black Dragon. Black Dragon didn't respond, but his two dragon whiskers suddenly trembled. Xue Tong ignored Black Dragon's suppressed anger and continued. "As far as I know, in order to break through the seal of the Demon Dragon clan, one must not only find a descendant of the Demon Dragon clan's bloodline, but also strengthen them until they reach the realm of great perfection. Only then can they cultivate the Demon Dragon true body. But even if these conditions are met, using the powerful Demon Dragon true body to forcefully break through the seal is an extremely dangerous matter. A single misstep could result in the destruction of one's soul. In the first 200 years, there were many experts with the Demon Dragon bloodline who attempted to break through the seal. Unfortunately, they all failed. Later on, the clans with the Demon Dragon bloodline thought that this was an impossible mission and that it would be a wasted sacrifice. From then on, those with the demonic dragon bloodline stopped cooperating and abandoned their mission. Not only did they sever all ties with the demonic dragon clan, but they also began to conceal their identities and attempt to live the lives of ordinary people on the Qinyuan continent. After hundreds of years of reproduction, they are now no different from ordinary people, and the demon dragon bloodline in their bodies has become thinner and thinner. Finding someone with such a concentrated demon dragon bloodline on the Qinyuan continent and able to cultivate the demon dragon true body is more difficult than finding a needle in a haystack. Xue Tong revealed the secret of the demon dragon clan word by word. A few decades ago, you found a man who possessed the blood of the demon dragon, and helped him cultivate the demon dragon's real body. Unfortunately, that person was just like his ancestors, unwilling to sacrifice himself for you. Xue Tong paused for a moment, then continued to look at Black Dragon. Do you think that this person with the demon dragon bloodline will be willing to sacrifice himself for you? Missions and bloodlines will be washed away in the long river of time. Who would be willing to sacrifice themselves for someone who had little to do with them 1,000 years ago? Empress Xue Tong added. You know quite a bit, the demon dragon phantom finally said. The mystic dragon phantom finally said, then, are you confident that after this bloodline inheritor has gone through countless hardships to become strong, she will be willing to risk her life and sacrifice herself for unrelated souls like us? Of course. Xue Tong replied without hesitation. That's why I'm here today. If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have taken the risk. Oh? Why are you so confident? The demon dragon asked, its two long whiskers quivering once more. Because of love, Empress Xue Tong replied. Empress Xue Tong replied, have you ever wondered why those who possess the bloodline of the demon dragon would abandon their mission and conceal their identities? They're cowards. Black Dragon snorted. That's only a small part of the reason, Xue Tong said. Xue Tong said, the biggest reason is love. Death means separation from one's family, friends, and lovers. As an inheritor of the demon dragon bloodline, everyone has to face this separation at the peak of their lives. If they don't succeed, their descendants will face the same fate. That's why they chose to abandon their missions. So it's because of love, the demon dragon said, suddenly understanding. They can abandon their missions for love, but they can also accept the mission and sacrifice themselves for love, Xue Tong continued. It all depends on how the person who controls love controls it. So you're sure you can control the current inheritor of the demon dragon bloodline? The demon dragon suddenly approached Xue Tong and asked. She will become my daughter-in-law. Xue Tong said with certainty. He loves my son very much. As long as it's done properly, she will be willing to complete her mission. Good. The demon dragon said. Its huge body circled above the demon dragon tomb, bringing with it a huge flow of water. The demon dragon tomb was also filled with a dragon's roar. Empress, tell me your request. The demon dragon stopped in front of Xue Tong and asked. Xue Tong looked at the demon dragon's crimson eyes. I'm sure you're aware of my situation. My request is that after you're resurrected, you help me destroy the Silver Dragon clan in order to avenge me for killing my husband and stealing my body. The Demon Dragon clan has always had a grudge against the Silver Dragon clan. Even if you hadn't asked, we'd still have gone to destroy them. Since that's the case, it's a deal. After you destroy the Silver Dragon clan, help me find my body. Then our deal is done, Xue Tong said. In that case, we'll wait here for the inheritor of the Silver Dragon clan. After the Demon Dragon Phantom finished speaking, it turned around and swam back into the Demon Dragon tomb. Gradually, the entire Demon Dragon tomb became silent and became a deathly silent place. Empress, let's go back, the first elder said to Xue Tong. Empress Xue Tong looked at the deathly silent land. Her expressionless face finally revealed a cold smile. She nodded slightly and swam towards the surface. In Li Mo's study, Yun Ruian sat on a couch by his side, the scarlet eye sword in her hand growing larger and smaller. The sword's largest size was the scarlet eye sword's original size, and its smallest size was the size of a dark steel dagger. However, the scarlet eye was far more powerful than the snow steel dagger. The snow steel dagger could slice through iron as if it were mud, but the scarlet eye dagger could melt iron directly. If she could control the temperature of the sword, she could cook it on the blade. Yun Ruian couldn't help but think of eating it. As soon as the thought occurred to her, Yun Ruian laughed. What's on your mind? Why are you so happy? Li Mo put down the document in his hand. It had been 8 days since the marriage proposal and all the preparations had been made. All that was left was for the wedding, which was only 4 or 5 days away. Very soon Yun Ruoyan would become Li Mo's wife, the Slaughtering King's consort, the mistress of the Slaughtering King's manor. Yun Ruoyan looked at Li Mo with a smile in her eyes. Yen'er's current state is really a huge test for this king. Li Mo sighed and extended a hand toward Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan put away the scarlet eye sword and walked toward him, nestling in his embrace. Chapter 298. Yun Ruoyan flipped through the stack of documents in front of Li Mo. She couldn't help but laugh. I thought the Slaughtering King was busy with his work, but I didn't know you were reading these. Yun Ruoyan smiled. The documents on the table were filled with drawings of hairpins. There were simple jade hairpins and there were also some complicated golden hairpins. After the new year, you'll be a marriageable woman. By then you'll be able to wear all sorts of hairpins. I'll have to prepare everything for you in advance, Li Mo continued. Also clothes for cultivation, casual clothes and some formal attire. Why don't you let Sister Li Luo handle that? Yun Ruoyan smiled. And I won't have a chance to wear all the clothes you've prepared. After the wedding I'll have to train and then head to the alternate dimension. You won't want me to bring these clothes with me, will you? Li Mo smiled. He knew that Yun Ruoyan wouldn't need much of the clothes he had prepared, but he couldn't help but want to do them himself, as if only by doing so could he express the joy in his heart. I can change the size of the scarlet eye as I please now. Yun Ruoyan stood up from Li Mo's lap. Why don't you hand me the second half of the imperial sword technique now? Just as Yun Ruoyan pulled Li Mo up from behind the table, Sunan's voice came from outside the study. Your Highness, I've prepared the information you asked me to investigate on Jian Mei of the Qin matriarch. Yun Ruoyan's face lit up as she glanced at Li Mo. Come in. Sunan pushed open the door and entered, a stack of documents in his hands. When he saw Yun Ruoyan he nodded and bowed to her, then stood to the side as if he had entered a meditative state. These are the documents that the Mo guards have found on Qin Jianmei. Li Mo pulled Yun Ruoyan to a seat, and the two of them began flipping through Qin Jianmei's documents. There was information on her household registration as well as proof of her identity, and some of her life experiences. So Madame Qin isn't from the capital, Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. According to the documents, Qin Jianmei had followed her father to the capital when she was young, and her father was a traveling physician. So you've known my father for a long time, even before my mother married into the Yun manor. Yun Ruoyan handed Li Mo a stack of documents. The contents recorded some of Qin Jianmei and Yun Lan's encounters. It turned out that after Qin Jianmei entered the imperial city with her father often went to the aristocratic families to treat the nobles because of his superb medical skills. The Yun residence was also a place they frequented, and it was at that time that Qin Jianmei met Yun Lan. Then in the 3rd year after they arrived in the imperial city, Qin Jianmei's father suddenly died at home. The cause was unknown. From then on, Qin Jianmei lived alone in the capital as a medicine master until she married Yun Lan as a concubine and gave birth to Yun Ruoyu. Since then she had been living in the plum-cutting pavilion of the Yun residence. She rarely went out and had little contact with others. Is there any information on 3rd Yinyang before she came to the imperial city? Where are they from? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. Sunan, who had entered a meditative state, raised his head. Before entering the capital, Madame Qin and Madame Qin had been roaming the Qinyuan continent, and there were traces of them in almost every kingdom. As for what happened while they were roaming the continent, it's impossible to find out anything about their hometown. I didn't expect Madame Qin's origins to be so mysterious, Yun Ruoyan murmured. After reading through the documents, Li Mo handed them back to Sunan for him to sort through, and Sunan left with the documents. Although Mo Wei's findings couldn't prove that Madame Qin was the woman who had poisoned Yun Ruoyan all those years ago, her mysteriousness had once again piqued Yun Ruoyan's interest. Li Mo, have you heard of the brood mother parasite? Yun Ruoyan asked casually as she lay in Li Mo's lap and looked out the window. Yes, the one that poisoned you before, Li Mo replied casually as he stroked Yun Ruoyan's hair. Yun Ruoyan sat up immediately and looked at Li Mo in surprise. How did you know? Do you still remember the first time we met? I knew you were poisoned. Li Mo smiled at Yun Ruoyan's surprised expression. Yes, you wanted to return the favor, so you promised to cure me, Yun Ruoyan suddenly said mischievously. I did accept 2 bottles of spiritual pills from you afterward, but I didn't know if I could cure you or not. I bet you'd forgotten about it. Fortunately, grandfather cured me of the poison. Li Mo, if that's the case, don't you still owe me a big favor? I didn't forget about it. In order to investigate the origins of the poison, I made a trip to the Yu Kingdom. There, I found out that the poison came from a shamanic tribe and I met with a shamanic elder. However, I only managed to learn the name of the poison from him before he self-detonated, Li Mo explained. At that time, only the first elder was left in the shamanic village. The rest of the tribe had already wandered the continent, and I had no way of obtaining the antidote. Fortunately, the next time I saw you, you had already cured yourself of the poison. After Li Mo finished speaking, the 2 of them looked at each other and smiled, their thoughts simultaneously returning to that afternoon when the phoenix flowers were in full bloom. Li Mo floated down from beneath the phoenix orchid tree, wrapping her in a loose black robe. That was their second close encounter, and it was also at that time that Li Mo realized that Yun Ruoyan was different from the others. I suspect that Madame Qin might be from the shamanic tribe, Yun Ruoyan suddenly said. Why do you say that? Li Mo asked. Madame Qin of the Yun family and a shamanic tribe living deep in the mountains of the Yu Kingdom were worlds apart, and most people wouldn't associate the 2 together. That's just my guess. Yun Ruoyan lay back in Li Mo's embrace, frowning as she sorted out her thoughts. Grandfather had an ancient book that recorded the child-mother parasite poison. The book said that the child-mother parasite poison originated from a shamanic tribe in the Yu Kingdom, which is exactly what you found. The book also said that this tribe worshipped the reincarnated Buddha, and that they had to burn incense and pray day and night. Madame Qin worshipped the Buddha from morning till night. However, there were many people who worshipped the Buddha, and many of them were as devout as Qin Jianmei. As a result, this was only a small part of Yun Ruoyan's theory. Also, I smelled the strange sandalwood fragrance that Dr. Tsing mentioned in the plum-cutting pavilion. This is also one of the bases for my deduction. Yun Ruoyan tapped her chin with her finger. And the sudden changes in Madame Qin and Ruoyu during this period of time are all very strange. When there were more than 3 suspicious points in a matter, it would become suspicious. What about the motive? Does Madame Qin have a grudge against your mother? Yun Ruoyan shook her head. I heard that they were on good terms and she took good care of me and my brother when we were young. If they didn't have a grudge against each other, why would Madame Qin poison my mother with such a venomous parasite? Yun Ruoyan sat up from Li Mo's lap. No matter what the motive is and whether or not Madame Qin is the one who poisoned my mother, I'm going to resolve my doubts. I've decided to visit Plum Clipping Cottage tonight. Night came quickly, and along with the darkness came a heavy snow that covered the sky. In the snowy night, Li Mo flew Yun Ruoyan all the way to the back mountain of the Yun Manor. The back mountain was connected to the Yun Manor, and it was only a single wall away from Qin Jianmei's cottage. Li Mo sheathed his sword and followed Yun Ruoyan over the wall, arriving at Plum Clipping Cottage. It was already late at night. The plum-cutting pavilion and even the entire residence of Yun was silent. Although it was late at night and the plum-cutting pavilion was quiet, the temple hall on the west side was still brightly lit. Were they still praying so late at night? Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo glanced at each other before walking up to the window of the western room. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo both poked at the window and peered inside. A slender figure appeared in front of them. It was Qin Jianmei. They saw Qin Jianmei kowtow 3 times in front of the altar, then light a stick of sandalwood and place it into the censer. Yun Ruoyan could smell the fragrance even through the window. Yun Ruoyan's gaze followed the rising sandalwood incense, and then she discovered something strange. Something's not right, Yun Ruoyan murmured. What's not right? Li Mo asked. The statue of Buddha isn't right, Yun Ruoyan replied. The last time I was here I clearly saw a bodhisattva on the altar. How did it turn out to be a Buddha this time? Li Mo also looked at the incense burner. Behind the incense there was indeed a Buddha, not a guanyin. A Buddha in the past and a guanyin in the present. Madame Qin is indeed a descendant of the shamanic tribe. Yun Ruoyan was about to break the window when Li Mo pulled her back. That alone isn't enough to convict her. Who's there? Their actions alerted Qin Jianmei, who was inside the house. She turned to look at the window and shouted in a low voice before walking towards the window. Meow. Meow. Suddenly 2 cat meows made him stop in his tracks. It was 2 cats in heat playing by the window, scratching the paper of the window. 2 little beasts, how dare you disturb the Buddha's cultivation? Qin Jinmei's beautiful face suddenly turned gloomy. She then swung her hand at the 2 cats on the window, and 2 thin needles flew out and pierced into the 2 cats' vital parts. The 2 cats didn't even have a chance to scream before they fell out of the window and into the snow. What a powerful needle technique, Li Mo thought as he pulled Yun Ruoyan away from the cottage. Li Mo, let go of me. Why didn't you let me catch her on the spot? Yun Ruoyan asked. So what if I caught her on the spot? Kill her? Li Mo countered. If killing her would solve the problem, wouldn't it be too simple? Chapter 299. She's a member of the shamanic tribe, and the poison that my mother and I were afflicted with can only be concocted by a member of the shamanic tribe. She's definitely the one who poisoned us all those years ago. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed agitatedly. So what? Li Mo countered. This woman isn't simple. If you just barge in and question her, she'll only grit her teeth and refuse to confess. Naturally, she won't give you the answer you want. Even if you threaten her with death, she might not give in. She's a pill master herself, and I'm afraid your bewitching powder won't work on her. Yun Ruoyan knew that she couldn't kill Qin Jianmei on the spot. She still had many questions that she needed her to answer. However, Yun Ruoyan was at a loss as to how to get her to confess to her crimes. She tugged at Li Mo's sleeve and shook it. Then what do you think we should do? Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan, brushed away the snow on her head, and put on the hood that he had given her. Everyone has a weakness. If you can find it, she'll definitely open her mouth. Yun Ruoyan nodded. You'll have to be careful. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but think back to when they had interrogated Physician Tseng. Although Physician Tseng looked weak and cowardly, he was willing to die to protect his wife and child. In order to protect his family, he had been able to use his mental strength to resist the bewitching powder. However, Li Mo's request to bring his family over had instantly broken through his defenses. It was clear that grasping a person's weakness was indeed the most effective way to break through their defenses. If Physician Tseng's family was his weakness, then Qin Jianmei's weakness could only be Yun Ruoyu. In the capital, in the Yun household, Yun Ruoyu was Qin Jianmei's only descendant. Li Mo, I know what to do now. Yun Ruoyan looked at Li Mo, her lips curving up in a smile. You're smart, Yin. Li Mo's lips curled up as well. The next day, Yun Ruoyan returned to the Yun manor. She first paid her respects to Yun Lan, then went to speak with the Yun matriarch for a while before returning to her rooms. As soon as Yun Ruoyan returned to her rooms, Ling Lan reported to her that her brother Che Mingchen had passed the imperial examinations. Because Yun Ruoyan hadn't spent much time at her cottage, Ling Lan hadn't had a chance to bring up the matter with her. Now that Yun Ruoyan had finally returned, before she could even sit down and have a sip of hot tea, Ling Lan had come to inform her of the matter. That's indeed a good thing. Yun Ruoyan smiled as she helped Shi Lan up from her kneeling position. Quite a few days had passed since Yun Ruoyan had found out that Che Mingchen had passed the examinations. Ling Lan said that Che Mingchen had already received his official post and would be taking up his post in a few days. Moreover, Che Mingchen Ling was an official in the capital. Although the official position was not high, it was still a promising one. It's all thanks to your help that day, Mississippi. Otherwise, who knows whether Shi Lan would still be alive? Shi Lan began to cry. In the future, even if I have to go through fire and water, I'll be willing to do anything for you, Mississippi, silly child. Yun Ruoyan patted Shi Lan's head and instructed Peony to give her a large red packet worth 500 taels of silver. As an official, you'll have to bribe everyone. Take this and pass it to your brother in the future. Tell him to cherish this opportunity. He'll have to adapt to the circumstances, and this is especially true of being an official. Don't let him be as reckless and impulsive as he used to be. Ling Lan didn't refuse. Instead, she accepted the money, but she would remember this favor deeply. Yun Ruoyan gave Ling Lan a few more days off and she left happily. By the time it was almost noon, Yun Ruoyan had Shi Lan prepare a few delicacies in the kitchen, then had Peony invite Yun Moxiao over to her room. The siblings chatted as they ate and drank in Yunruoyan's small room. Peony, I don't need anyone to serve me anymore. Why don't you and Xilan return to your room to warm up? Yunruoyan looked at the two servants standing by her side. Peony nodded and was about to leave when Xilan spoke up. Miss, I've already made plans with Sister Xiaolan to teach me how to draw flowers. It's almost time. Can I go? Go. Yunruoyan smiled and waved her hand. Thank you, Mississippi. Xilan skipped out of the courtyard, and Peony shook her head as she returned to her room. Once everyone had been sent away by Yunruoyan, Yun Maxiao put down his chopsticks and looked at Yunruoyan. Ruoyan, is there something you want to tell me? As a result, Yunruoyan told her brother what she and Li Moi had seen and heard the day before. Could it really be Madame Qin? Yun Maxiao stared blankly for a long while before finally accepting Yunruoyan's words. But why would she do such a thing? She doesn't have any grudges with mother and she's not the type to be jealous. Yunruoyan and Yun Maxiao had always suspected Madame N to be the culprit, but they hadn't expected Madame Qin to be the most unlikely culprit. I don't know the reason either, so Li Mo and I plan to. Yunruoyan whispered her plan to Yun Maxiao. Will this work? Yun Maxiao frowned. It's best not to hurt anyone. We'll be careful not to hurt anyone, Yunruoyan assured him. And we won't let anyone know that we're the culprit. Yunruoyan took a sip of wine, then looked at her brother with bright eyes. Brother, just wait for the truth to be revealed. Miss Young Master, bad news. Just then Xilan, who had been gone for less than 10 minutes, rushed back into the courtyard. As soon as she entered the courtyard, she shouted as she ran, startling Peony. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? Yunruoyan asked once Xilan had gotten close. It's the third miss. Xilan had run so quickly that she was a little out of breath. What's the third miss? Peony also walked in and asked Xilan curiously. The third miss has been kidnapped. Xilan took a deep breath and finally managed to finish her sentence. What? The third miss has been kidnapped. Peony repeated Xilan's words in shock. Are you sure? Who would be so bold as to kidnap the first miss of the Yun Manor? It's true. Xilan quickly confirmed. I just arrived at Xianglan's cottage and found a brush and ink to learn how to paint from Sister Xiaolan. Suddenly, a servant came to report that the third miss had been kidnapped, and the old mistress was woken up from her afternoon nap. She's already gone to Master Yun's residence to check on the situation. Yunruoyan and Yun Maxiao glanced at each other, the same thought occurring in their minds. The plan has begun. Brother, it's about time for us to show our faces, Yunruoyan said as she stood up from her stool. By the time the siblings arrived at Yunlan's study, the Yun matriarch was already there. She was sitting at the head of the table, her expression serious. Madame Qin was standing by the side, sobbing uncontrollably, but her voice was soft and gentle. Father, Ruoyu and I were having a meal in Yun Ruoyu's cottage when we suddenly heard from the servant that something had happened to her. What's going on? Yun Maxiao asked his father. Look at this. Yun Lan handed a piece of paper to Yun Maxiao, who read it with his daughter. Official Yun, the two of us were passing by your residence and heard that you were a generous person, so we'd like to ask for a high-grade spiritual pill and 3 mid-grade spiritual pills from you. We've invited the third miss of your family to be our guest, and we'd like to ask Master Yun to personally deliver the pills to the bun shop at the foot of the Minghuang Mountain. The day we see the pills will be the day she returns to the manor. Signed by the Black-White Twin Demons. Ruoyu has indeed been kidnapped. Yun Maxiao exclaimed as he placed the letter on the table. Usually Ruoyu would accompany me for morning lessons early in the morning, but she's been feeling a little unwell these past few days, so I let her rest more. But today I didn't see her at all, even past noon. I was worried, so I went to her cottage to check on her. In the end, when I entered the room, I discovered that Ruoyu's maid had been drugged and was lying unconscious on the couch. Ruoyu was nowhere to be seen and there was only this letter left on her bed. Madam, you don't have to worry too much. If this Black-White Twin Demons wants the spiritual pill, they won't hurt Ruoyu. Yun Ruoyan walked up to Qin Jinmei's side and comforted her. At the same time, Yun Ruoyan carefully observed Qin Jinmei's expression. Qin Jinmei's anxious expression wasn't an act. It seemed that her judgment was correct. Yun Ruoyu was indeed Qin Jinmei's weakness. Master, who are these black-white twin demons? Will they hurt you or? Qin Jianmei asked Yunlan. After we give them the spiritual pill, they'll surely let her go, right? I've heard of the black and white femme and masculine duo. Yunlan looked at Qin Jianmei pitifully. Last time they caused a ruckus at the Yuelu villa, and they were in the limelight for quite a while. However, they seem to be targeting the Yuelu villa. Why would they suddenly attack the Yun manor? Yunlan frowned in confusion and muttered to himself. Father. Yun Ma Xiao called out, interrupting Yunlan's train of thought. Father, now's not the time to be thinking about the reason. Saving Ruoyu is more important. Yes, saving her is more important. Yunlan turned to Qin Jianmei. Don't worry too much, these black-white twin demons aren't evil beyond redemption. At least for now Ruoyu is safe. In that case, let's not wait here alone. The Yun matriarch suddenly sat up from her seat. Her originally stooped back instantly straightened a lot. She said, Yunlan, quickly go get the elixir. Xiao, or you'll accompany your father. Everyone else, go back to your own courtyards and wait for news. Chapter 300. After the Yun matriarch gave the order, everyone began to move out. Yun Ma Xiao accompanied Yunlan to retrieve the spiritual herbs and then prepared to head to the Minghuang mountain. The Yun matriarch had originally wanted Qin Jianmei to return to her quarters with her to await news, but Qin Jianmei had worriedly insisted on returning to her quarters to beg Guanyin for help. Seeing this, the Yun matriarch didn't force her. Grandmother, you don't look too well. Should I call for a physician? Yun Ruoyan asked when she saw the Yun matriarch's pale face. The Yun matriarch waved her hand. I'm fine. I was just taking an afternoon nap when I was suddenly woken up. In that case, I won't disturb you any longer. Rest well and I'll come visit you later. After sending the Yun matriarch back to her quarters, Yun Ruoyan immediately returned to her own quarters, instructing Xilan and Peony that she would be cultivating in her room and not to be disturbed. As soon as Yun Ruoyan entered her quarters, she saw Li Mo sitting quietly at the table waiting for her. Li Mo was dressed in a white robe that accentuated his tall figure. His hair was no longer loose, but was instead tied up casually at the back of his head, revealing a well-defined forehead, a pair of sword-like eyebrows and a pair of deep, narrow eyes. Yun Ruoyan felt as if he had suddenly become 7 or 8 years younger. In truth, Li Mo was only 23 or 24. But his usual attire made him appear at least 10 years older than his actual age. Yin what's wrong? Is there a problem? Li Mo stood up when he saw Yun Ruoyan staring at him in a daze. No problem at all. Yun Ruoyan immediately waved her hands, then looked at him with sparkling eyes. Li Mo, you look so good this way. It'd be nice to dress up like this every day. Li Mo smiled coolly. It's not that easy to establish my image as the slaughtering king. If I were to go out like this, I'm afraid no one would recognize me. I'm dressing up like this today to confuse Yunlan. Although Yunlan was famed for his discerning eyes, Li Mo's attire made it impossible for anyone to associate him with the slaughtering king. Li Mo put on a green fanged mask and stood up. Right, let's set off. As Yun Ruoyan spoke with Li Mo, she had already changed into a black nightgown and covered herself with a loose cloak. Then she took out a mask with green teeth and a red face and put it on. Li Mo flew on his sword in the direction of the Minghuang mountain. Their destination, however, wasn't the bun shop at the foot of the mountain, but a tea house only a kilometer away from the bun shop. As for Qin Jianmei, after she returned to the plum-cutting pavilion, she immediately changed into a set of light clothes and climbed over the wall to the back of the mountain. After that, she bought a horse from the horse market on the street and rushed towards the Minghuang mountain. Her destination was the tea house at the foot of the mountain. Early that morning, Qin Jianmei had gone to Yun Ruoyu's courtyard. When she discovered that Yun Ruoyu had been kidnapped, she had found 2 letters on her bed. One of them was for Yunlan to see, signed by the black-white twin demons, and containing a request for a spiritual herb. The other was for Qin Jianmei, asking her to go to the tea house alone, claiming that an old friend had invited her for a chat. Because she was worried about Yun Ruoyu, Qin Jianmei didn't hesitate to go to the tea house alone. Meanwhile, Yunlan and Yun Ma Xiao had arrived at the bun shop at the foot of the Minghuang mountain. The only person they saw was Su Nan disguised as the owner of the bun shop. What would you like to order, dear customers? Su Nan, dressed as a waiter, approached Yun Lan and Yun Moxiao as they entered the shop. I'm looking for someone, Yun Moxiao replied. Yun Lan's sharp gaze swept over the customers in the shop. There were only 4 or 5 customers in the shop, and they all seemed to be very ordinary people, be it in terms of clothing or aura. Who are the 2 guests looking for? The waiter asked again. Yun Lan turned to the waiter in front of him. He immediately noticed that this waiter was different from the rest. Although Su Nan had already retracted his aura, Yun Lan had extraordinary observation skills. He could tell whether a person was an expert from the look in their eyes. Yun Lan could tell from the waiter's eyes that only an expert would be able to conceal their sharpness. The goods are ready. We're looking for the person to receive them. Before Yun Moxiao could speak, Yun Lan spoke up, his eyes shrouded in shadows as he looked at Su Nan. Please come in, dear customers. Su Nan courteously ushered Yun Moxiao and Yun Lan into the back of the shop. Where's my daughter, Ruoyu? As soon as they entered, Yun Lan's spiritual energy exploded from his body. He reached out and grabbed Su Nan's neck, pressing him against the wall. Su Nan had no intention of retaliating. He struggled a little before replying with difficulty, Miss Ruoyu isn't here. I've been ordered by my master to wait for the 2 of you. The carriage is right behind us. Please come with me to see my master. He's going to invite you to watch a good show. Qin Jianmei sprinted all the way to the tea house that had been mentioned on the letter. But at this moment the tea house was empty and not a single person could be seen. I'm here. Where's my daughter? Qin Jianmei kicked open the tea house's door and shouted at the empty room. A man and a woman walked out from behind a screen on the 2nd floor. The man was dressed in a tight-fitting white robe and wore a green fanged mask. The woman was dressed in a loose cloak and a red-green mask. These 2 were none other than the black-white twin demons, disguised by Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. Madam Yun, you're right on time. His voice was very hoarse and obscure. Just by listening to his voice, it was hard to tell if he was doing it on purpose or if he was born like this. So you're the black-white twin demons? Where's my daughter? What do you want? Qin Jianmei raised her head to look at the 2 men on the 2nd floor. Don't worry, your daughter's fine for now, the man continued. We're here because of a lawsuit from more than 10 years ago, and we'd like you to settle it. More than 10 years ago? What lawsuit? Qin Jianmei asked doubtfully. I've been staying in the Yun household for the past 10 years, and I've hardly ever left the house. What lawsuit could I have possibly offended? The man didn't seem to be in a hurry. To be precise, it was 13 years ago or perhaps even earlier. About 15 years ago, did you do anything shameful? As Li Mo spoke, he stared sharply at Qin Jianmei through his mask. When Qin Jianmei heard the man's words, she was slightly startled. 15 years ago she had done more than one shameful thing. In that 1 year she seemed to have done all the shameful things she had done in her entire life. However, Qin Jianmei, who had done something shameful, did not feel guilty at all. She straightened her slender waist, raised her chin and declared righteously, I, Qin Jianmei, have lived an honest life and I've never done anything shameful. You're lying. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help pointing a finger at Qin Jianmei. There's a price to pay for lying and your daughter will have to pay for it. What are you trying to do? Qin Jianmei growled. If you want to deal with me, come at me. Don't touch my daughter. She's the 3rd miss of the Yun family, and if you dare hurt her, the Yun family won't let you off. When Yun Ruoyan heard this, she grew even angrier. She was just about to question him when Li Mo stopped her in time. Li Mo whispered into Yun Ruoyan's ear, your father's watching us from the other side. Don't say anything lest he notice anything amiss. All you have to do is to stand quietly by my side. Yun Ruoyan suppressed her anger, nodded, and took 2 steps back to stand behind Li Mo. You know that every wrong has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. Li Mo's voice was cold and hoarse as he looked at Qin Jianmei. The grudges between parents shouldn't be carried over to their children, so why did you use the brood mother poison to harm them? As soon as she heard the words brood mother poison, Qin Jianmei's face, which had been flushed with anger, suddenly paled. What brood mother poison? What do you mean harm them? I don't understand what you're saying at all. Are you trying to frame me? Qin Jianmei hurriedly retorted. Li Mo knew that Qin Jianmei wouldn't be easy to deal with, but the more difficult it was, the more interesting it would be. If you don't know about broodmother poison, then don't you know about the shamanic tribe, the bodhisattva of present life and the Buddha of next life? Li Mo asked calmly as if this question wasn't important and he didn't need an answer. Of course not. What are those things? Qin Jianmei asked curiously. Alright, since you don't know, I'll show you. Li Mo clapped his hands 3 times, and a masked man walked up from behind and handed a tray to Li Mo. The tray was covered with a piece of black gauze, which Li Mo peeled off, revealing what was underneath. There were 2 statues of Buddhas. More accurately, one was a bodhisattva and the other was a Buddha. However, upon closer inspection, these statues were somewhat different from the bodhisattvas and Buddhas that most people worshipped. Most bodhisattvas and Buddhas were benevolent, but upon closer inspection, these 2 statues were ferocious. Even though they were smiling, they gave off an inexplicably sinister aura. Yun Ruoyan looked at the 2 statues on the tray. She recognized them. They were the 2 statues that Qin Jianmei had consecrated, and Li Mo had managed to get his hands on them. When Qin Jianmei saw the 2 statues that she had worshipped day and night for more than a decade in Li Mo's hands, she almost lost her balance, and her face turned even paler than before. Chapter 301. I'm not too familiar with the shamans of the Yu Kingdom, but I happen to know that the Bodhisattva of present life and the Buddha of future life are extremely important to the shamans. Sometimes they're even more important than their own lives. Li Mo lightly brushed his hand over the 2 statues, imbuing his hand with spiritual energy. As soon as Li Mo's spiritual energy came into contact with the 2 statues, the sinister smiles on the statues' faces suddenly turned fearful, as if the 2 inanimate objects had suddenly gained sentience and emotions. Yun Ruoyan's gaze had been on Qin Jianmei the entire time, so she hadn't noticed the changes in the statues at first. However, she noticed that Qin Jianmei's gaze had suddenly become incomparably nervous. Yun Ruoyan followed Qin Jianmei's gaze and looked at the 2 statues beneath Li Mo's hands. Under the pressure of Li Mo's spiritual energy, the 2 statues' faces began to change more and more visibly, their slitted eyes growing more sinister. Suddenly there was a crack. Li Mo's spiritual energy had caused a thin crack to appear on the belly of the Buddha of future life. Stop! Qin Jianmei, who had been standing stiffly on the first floor, finally shouted angrily, "These 2 statues belong to me. You took them without permission and you're no different from thieves." Madam, if you're not a shaman, why do you have the Bodhisattva of present life and the Buddha of future life? Li Mo asked. Moreover, these 2 statues already possess a considerable amount of spiritual energy. They must be the result of worshipping them day and night. If you're not a shaman, why have you worshipped them for more than 10 years? Madam Qin, there's no need to quibble. You're a shaman. Faced with Li Mo's question, Qin Jianmei fell silent for a long while before she suddenly laughed. Since you're so certain that I'm a shaman, there's no need for me to deny it. So what if I'm indeed a descendant of the Yu Kingdom's shaman? If you admit that you're a descendant of the shaman tribe, then you must know about the mother-child venom. Li Mo's tone suddenly turned serious, not indifferent. The mother-child venom is a secret poison unique to the shaman tribe. Just like these 2 statues, it's unique to the shaman tribe. 15 years ago, you were the one who poisoned a woman with the mother and child parasite unique to the wizard tribe. You're talking nonsense. Qin Jianmei quibbled again. I admit that I'm a member of the Wu tribe and I also admit that I know about the mother-child goo poison, but why are you accusing me of harming people? I have never harmed anyone. I believe in Buddha day and night. I worship Buddha. Is that considered harming people? Seeing that she wasn't going to let go, Li Mo slapped the air 3 more times. This time a black-clothed man walked out from the side with a middle-aged man in tow. They came to the hall on the first floor and stood together with Qin Jianmei. Madam Qin, do you recognize him? Li Mo asked. Qin Jianmei turned to look at the middle-aged man and said, I don't know him. The middle-aged man glanced at Qin Jianmei before shaking his head at Li Mo. Li Mo gestured to the black-clothed man beside the middle-aged man, who immediately took out a black cloth and covered the middle-aged man's eyes. Physician Tseng, let's see if we can still recognize her, Li Mo said. When Physician Tseng heard Li Mo's words, he inched closer to Qin Jianmei and sniffed carefully. After 2 sniffs he yelled, It's her. She's the woman who made me poison the Yun family's young mistress 13 years ago. In a side room on the first floor of the tea house, Yun Lan stood up from his seat. His eyes narrowed in the shadows and his hands clenched involuntarily by his sides. What nonsense are you spouting? Perhaps having forgotten what Physician Xing looked like, Qin Jianmei had initially been confused as to who he was. But when Physician Xing mentioned what had happened 13 years ago, Qin Jianmei immediately recognized him. However, even if she recognized him, she would never admit it. I don't know you at all. What do you mean by the woman who poisoned me 13 years ago? Qin Jianmei retorted stubbornly. Don't quibble. Physician Xing grew agitated. This woman had used him to harm others, causing him to carry a psychological burden for more than 10 years. Now that he had finally met the culprit, how could he not be agitated and indignant? If not for the black-clad men holding Physician Xing back, Physician Xing would have pounced on Qin Jianmei and beaten her up. Physician Xing excitedly recounted what had happened 13 years ago in front of everyone. He then pointed at Qin Jianmei and said, although you were wearing a veil that covered your entire body, there's no mistaking the strange fragrance on your body. I can guarantee with my life that you were the one who used me to poison the Yun family's young mistress. At this time, Qin Jianmei finally felt a little flustered, but she still tried her best to argue. In this world there are many people who look the same, not to mention the smell of the body. You must be mistaken. 13 years ago, I hadn't even married into the Yun family yet, so how could I have poisoned the Yun family's young mistress? At first I was also suspicious of your motives, Liemo began. But when I found out that you were acquainted with Master Yun before you married into the Yun family, I had a guess. You seem like someone who doesn't fight for anything, but deep down you're a very greedy person. You're deeply in love with old Master Yun, but he married Lin Yueme, whom he likes, and even married Madame N, whom he's engaged to but doesn't like. However, he refused to take you as his wife, so you held a grudge against him. You used your position as a physician in the Yun family to poison Lin Yueme. Preposterous. These are just your guesses. You don't have any evidence to back them up. Qin Jianmei sneered. As if he hadn't heard Qin Jianmei, Liemo continued. Perhaps you were afraid of exposing yourself, or perhaps you were simply too vicious to want Lin Yueme to die so easily. In any case, you didn't poison Lin Yueme to death directly. Instead, you poisoned her with a slow-acting parasite, allowing it to remain dormant in her body for 2 years. During these 2 years, the parasite transformed into a fetal poison that was transmitted directly from Lin Yueme's body to her daughter. 2 years later, the parasite in Lin Yueme's body erupted, and her life was hanging by a thread. Coincidentally, Physician Xing knew the antidote, and you used him to poison Lin Yueme's medicine, killing her. As Liemo spoke, although Qin Jianmei tried her best to maintain her composure, the guilt in her heart was obvious to anyone with a discerning eye. That's only your side of the story. Not only is it baseless, but it's also absurd. Qin Jianmei's facial muscles were beginning to stiffen, but she still gritted her teeth. It doesn't matter whether it's my side of the story or not. What's important is whether you've done what I'm saying. Liemo began. People often say that it's not that vengeance isn't forthcoming, but that the time isn't right. Not only did you poison Lin Yueme out of jealousy 10 years ago, but now, you've even poisoned Madame Yun's second madame's medicine, causing her to go insane. You think that no one will find out what you've done, but we, the black-white twin killers, are here to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. I don't understand a single word you're saying. Qin Jianmei laughed strangely. But if you want to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens, we'll have to see if you're capable of doing so. Liemo smiled. Do you think Master Yun would believe you if he were to find out what you've done? Would he join us in enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Qin Jianmei's expression immediately changed. You madman, don't even think about ruining my plans of so many years. Just as Qin Jianmei finished speaking, the 2 statues on the tray in the hands of the black-clothed man suddenly began to change. Above the head of the Buddha of the future life, a black aura suddenly emerged. The aura morphed into a strange hand that grabbed the neck of the guard holding the tray. The guard didn't even have a chance to struggle before his throat was crushed and he slumped to the ground. When Yun Ruian saw this, she wanted to pick up the 2 statues that had fallen to the ground, but Liemo reacted quickly and grabbed her. That's demonic energy. Don't touch it. Liemo pulled Yun Ruian behind his back. The 2 of them didn't move forward. Instead, they stared intently at what Liemo called demonic energy. The demonic energy, which could condense into a physical form, continued to seep out from the head of the Buddha, and more demonic energy gradually enveloped the statue of Guanyin by its side. Then, as if sensing the demonic energy, the statue's eyes turned red and widened in an instant, causing Yun Ruoyan, who was staring at it, to stare at it in shock. The two benevolent Buddhas had transformed into two demonic beings in this short period of time. Yun Ruoyan saw a red aura begin to seep out from the statue's widened eyes. Needless to say, that red aura was demonic energy. The demonic energy, red and black, didn't mix. Instead, they each occupied one half of the statue, but they were tightly connected. Not only were they connected, but they were also beginning to take shape. Not good, they're going to take human form, Li Mo murmured. Ah. At this moment, a scream came from downstairs. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo turned to see physician Tseng, who was under Mo Wei's control. His eyes were wide open, his nose and mouth were bleeding, and 3 silver needles had been inserted into his forehead. Qin Jianmei, how dare you silence him? Yun Ruoyan roared at Qin Jianmei. Not only am I going to kill him, but I'm also going to kill everyone here. As Qin Jianmei spoke, she waved her hand towards Mo Wei, who was not far away from her. 3 silver needles shot towards him. Li Mo pointed a finger at the air, and a white beam of spiritual energy shot toward the needles. Although the silver needles were fast, Li Mo's spiritual energy was even faster. The spiritual energy knocked the needles out of the way, and the guard raised his sword and slashed at Lin Yuemei. You can't kill her. Yun Ruoyan cried out. Chapter 302. Stop. Li Mo commanded. If Qin Jianmei were to die so easily, she wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. After all, Yun Ruoyan still had many questions to ask her about her mother, Lin Yuemei. As the two of them shouted, Mo Wei's saber stopped above Qin Jianmei's head. And Qin Jianmei also saw this opportunity to escape. She swung her hand towards Mo Wei's chest. This time Mo Wei was prepared. He used the knife in front of his body to block 2 of the silver needles. However, the third one still hit his arm. Mo Wei immediately felt his arm go numb. Clearly, the needles had been dipped in poison. Stand down. Li Mo shouted at Mo Wei, who clutched his injured arm and retreated from the room. By this time, the black and red demonic energies released by the Buddha and the Bodhisattva of this world had morphed into a tall, humanoid creature that was half red and half black. This creature was more than 3 meters tall, and its 2 thick arms and 2 thick legs had already taken on a physical form. While walking and turning around, the humanoid monster's legs and arms came into contact with the wooden stairs in the tea house and easily shattered them. The lethality of the monster was enormous. Your Highness. By this time, Sunan had changed back into his Mo Wei attire and appeared by Li Mo's side, accompanied by 5 other Mo Wei. They stood in front of Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan, forming a human wall. It's a demonic puppet. Li Mo's expression was grave. Protect Yen. Yes, Your Highness. Sunan took a step back and stood by Yun Ruoyan's side. Demonic puppet? Yun Ruoyan repeated doubtfully. This was the first time she had heard of such a thing. What's a demonic puppet? When I was young, my mother told me that demonic puppets were extremely lethal weapons that existed in a different world. This thing in front of me is very similar to what my mother told me, Li Mo explained. But this is the first time I've seen a real demonic puppet. Bodhisattva demon, listen to my command. At this moment, Qin Jianmei, who was standing downstairs, loudly ordered the half-red, half-black humanoid puppet. A stick of incense had been lit in her hand, and the strange fragrance quickly spread throughout the entire space. The gigantic humanoid was originally just a human shape with no holes on its body. However, as the strange fragrance permeated the air, 2 holes gradually appeared on the round ball that could barely be called a head, roughly where the nose should be. The smoke from the incense in Qin Jianmei's hand turned into 2 puffs of white smoke that drifted into the 2 holes. After the demon chi puppet was hit by the sandalwood incense, a hole that could barely be called a mouth appeared on its mouth. It let out a low and unpleasant sound as a response to Qin Jianmei. Then it swung its 2 large fists at Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo, and a few of the hidden guards didn't take the blow head-on. Instead, they all leaped away, dodging the puppet's attack. With a loud crack, The puppet's giant fists smashed a large hole in the second-floor floorboards. Yun Ruian, Li Mo, and the others leaped to the first floor, the hidden guards forming a protective wall around the two of them. With a bang, the humanoid puppet also jumped into the hall on the first floor. Two pits immediately appeared where its feet landed, and the entire wooden tea house shook as a result. This tea house was originally an abandoned building. Because it was the middle of winter, almost no one would visit the Minghuang Mountain during this time of year. Even if the tea house collapsed, there was no need to worry that it would crush anyone else. Bodhisattva demon. At some point, Qin Jianmei had appeared by the demonic puppet's side. The puppet, known as the Bodhisattva, crouched down in front of Qin Jianmei. Qin Jianmei stepped on its palm, then sat down on its shoulder. Immediately after, Qin Jianmei took out a stick of sandalwood and lit it up. After the demonic Qi puppet absorbed another stick of sandalwood, its body grew a lot taller, almost reaching the roof of the tea house. At the same time, Yun Moxiao, who was sitting in the corner of the first floor, was exceptionally anxious. He had long since known that the black-white twin demons were Li Mo and Yun Ruian in disguise. As he watched the battle unfold outside, he wanted to rush over to help. Stop. Yun Lan stopped his brother. This is a demonic puppet and you're no match for it. Let's see what the black-white twin demons and these men in black are capable of. Back in the hall, Yun Ruian noticed that the puppet had grown even larger. We can't let it eat any more sandalwood or it'll grow bigger and bigger. All of you go. By Yun Ruian's side, Su Nan ordered the 5 guards in front of him. As soon as they received the order, they rushed toward the demonic Qi puppet. Among them, 3 of them were in the midst of sprinting. Sword light rose from beneath their feet as they soared into the sky. 5 of the ink guards arrived in front of the puppet at the same time, and simultaneously launched an attack against it. The 2 ink guards on the ground brandished the broadswords in their hands and chopped down at the 2 legs of the puppet. The 2 legs that seemed to be solid were instantly turned into nothingness under the chopping of the broadswords, and were unable to withstand any force at all. The 2 guards' swords seemed to have struck thin air, and with a clang the 2 swords collided. Before the 2 ink guards could even react, one of the puppet's legs had already lifted up, and with an abrupt spinning kick the 2 ink guards were sent flying. The 3 guards flying in the air didn't gain the upper hand either. They attacked the puppets as if they were attacking the air. However, the attacks of the puppets were solid and didn't slow them down at all. Very quickly, the 3 guards, who were as strong as blade masters, began to lose their footing. With a muffled cry, one of the guards fell from the puppet's sword, Qin Jianmei, who had shot a silver needle at him from the puppet's shoulder. The other guard caught the fallen guard and retreated, leaving only a single guard to deal with the puppet. Your Highness, if we can't touch that woman, I'm afraid we'll have no chance of victory. Su Nan couldn't help but worry when he saw his brother injured. You stay here and wait. Su Nan, protect her. Li Mo turned to Yun Ruian and Su Nan. A green sword aura appeared beneath his feet and he quickly flew toward the puppet. Just then the guard who had been knocked back by the puppet's fist was sent flying. Li Mo reached out to catch him, then let him retreat. Madam Qin, are you trying to fall into the demonic path? Li Mo asked coldly. Demonic cultivation has disappeared from the Qinyuan continent for 1,000 years. I didn't expect to see it on you today. We shamans are descendants of the demons from 1,000 years ago, Qin Jianmei replied. But you humans didn't accept us, so we had no choice but to hide in the mountains and become shamans. As it turned out, the shamans in the Yu Kingdom were descendants of the demons that had been banished from the Qinyuan continent 1,000 years ago. However, after 1,000 years, the shamans had split into 2 factions. One was the conservative faction which advocated continuing to live in the mountains. The other was the radical faction which advocated returning to the human world and even reviving the demon race. As the conflict between the 2 factions grew more and more intense, a battle finally broke out. Many people died in the battle. Some of the survivors continued to stay in the deep mountains, while others returned to the human world. Qin Jianmei was one of the shamans who had returned to the human world. Because shamans were skilled in medicine, most of them lived as traveling physicians. This was passed down from generation to generation. In order to better integrate into the lives of ordinary people, many of the shamans deliberately forgot their bloodline ancestors as they passed down their legacy. Physician Zheng was likely a descendant of the shamans. But his ancestors hadn't revealed their true identities when they passed on their inheritance. Our Qin family has always carried on the bloodline of the shamans. No, more accurately, it's the bloodline of the demons, Qin Jianmei explained. We already have powerful demonic energy, but it's been sealed away. However, we still have a way to obtain demonic energy, and that's to refine a demonic puppet. However, in order to refine a true demonic qi puppet, one would need to sacrifice the heart of a person with the bloodline of the demon clan. Furthermore, one would need to continuously use their own blood to refine sandalwood incense for worship day and night. Thus, in the records of the demon clan, there was no record of a person who had truly refined a demonic qi puppet. Ever since she was young, Qin Jianmei had been fascinated by Father Qin's teachings, but because she didn't have a heart, she hadn't been able to practice it. 15 years ago, however, Qin Jianmei's father had suddenly died, and Qin Jianmei had dug out his heart with her own hands to refine a demonic puppet. In 81 days, my Bodhisattva demon will be complete. But you've ruined my plans at this time. Qin Jianmei snarled at Liemo. But at this stage, it's more than enough to deal with mortals like you. Bodhisattva demon, kill this cowardly bastard. Qin Jianmei commanded. The demonic puppet opened its mouth and let out another horrendous sound. Then its fists flew toward Liemo like a whirlwind, the sound of the wind ringing in Yun Ruoyan's ears. Yun Ruoyan stared nervously at Liemo, the scarlet pupil spiritual sword in her hand. Unfortunately, she still didn't know how to ride a sword, or she would have already charged forward to fight alongside Liemo. Mistress, don't worry too much. Qiuqiu's voice suddenly rang out in Yun Ruoyan's mind. Even if Liemo can't subdue this demonic puppet, he should be able to escape unscathed. Just as Qiuqiu had said, Liemo was incredibly fast. The puppet's fists were sharp and fast, but they couldn't even touch a corner of Liemo's robe. Bodhisattva demon, kill him. Qin Jianmei was clearly panicking. At her urging, the demonic puppet suddenly opened its slender mouth and spat out a mouthful of black gas toward Liemo. Chapter 303. The black mist that the puppet spat out began to morph into 7 or 8 black demonic hands that pounced toward Liemo. Liemo, be careful. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but call out when she raised her head. Even though Qiuqiu had told Yun Ruoyan that Liemo would be able to deal with it, no one present had ever seen or heard of this demonic qi puppet and the techniques it was capable of. As a result, everyone began to grow nervous. Unknowingly, Yun Ruoyan had already grasped the crimson eye in her hand. Unfortunately, she couldn't fly on her sword yet. At that moment, the 7 or 8 demonic hands were attacking Liemo from different directions, slashing, slapping, or grabbing. However, Liemo was dressed in a white robe and wore a green, fanged mask. His movements were swift and nimble, and the 7 or 8 demonic hands couldn't even touch the hem of his robe. Father. Within the small room, Yun Maxiao stood by a small window and looked at the battle outside. Somewhat impatient, he turned to Yun Lan. Let's go out and help. Help. Yun Lan's face was expressionless. His eyes were hidden in the shadows, making it impossible to see his emotions. He coldly asked, "Who do you want to help?" Help. Yun Maxiao opened his mouth, but the words he was about to say were stuck in his throat. He was about to say, of course, that they were going to help Ruoyan and the Slaughtering King, but he suddenly realized that Yun Lan didn't know that Yun Ruoyan and Liemo were actually the black-white twin demons. Yun Lan glanced at his father coolly. It's not clear whether the black-white twin demons are friend or foe, so we can't help them blindly. Yun Lan's heart sank. Qin Jinmei's actions had indeed surprised and angered Yun Lan, but she was still a member of the Yun family. Even if she wanted to kill her, she should have done so behind closed doors, rather than reveal the family's dirty linen in front of outsiders. As for the black-white twin demons, where had they come from on the Qinyuan continent? He'd first heard of them from the Yuelu villa. It was said that the two of them had wreaked havoc at the villa and rescued a large number of beastkin slaves. But apart from dealing with the Yuelu villa, the two of them rarely appeared anywhere else, and it had been a long time since they'd last appeared. What Yun Lan couldn't figure out was why these two people had suddenly appeared. Why did he kidnap his daughter and lure Qin Jianmei out? If these two people had enmity with Qin Jianmei, why didn't they kill her? Could it be that they took such a roundabout way just to let him watch a good show? It was definitely not that simple, so what was their motive for doing this? What was his purpose? Yunlan couldn't figure all of this out. Things that couldn't be seen clearly and couldn't be guessed were all dangerous. Yunlan looked in front of him and his deep eyes narrowed slightly. He saw that the white-robed man's movement technique was elegant and his cultivation was high, but he could not determine his identity. As for the woman shrouded in a black cloak, she did not speak or move, so Yunlan could not determine her identity. But the strange thing was that both of them gave Yunlan an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Yunlan thought to himself, if these two people are really people I know, then their disguising skills are indeed top-notch. Father, this demonic chi puppet is something that has never been seen before on the Qinyuan continent. This place is very close to the capital, and if we don't destroy it, it'll definitely endanger the safety of the capital. Yun Maxiao thought of a good reason. Father, the most important thing right now isn't to help anyone, but to destroy that monster. Yunlan furrowed his eyebrows. Qin Jianmei was still feeding sandalwood incense to the devil chi puppet, and its body was also slowly growing bigger. This was indeed a big problem. However, Yunlan's gaze fell on Qin Jianmei. Based on his understanding of her, she probably wouldn't make a big deal out of this. She was only acting crazily to protect her own secret. If he waited until the puppet had destroyed the black-white double fiends, or until both sides were heavily injured, then he would appear. Father. Seeing that Yunlan didn't react, Yun Maxiao urged anxiously. Although this puppet hasn't reached its peak, it's not something we can easily destroy, Yunlan said. Even with the help of the people outside, we still won't be a match for it. Then what should we do? Yun Maxiao's expression was anxious. Let's wait and see. Just then there was a sudden rumble. The puppet had struck the roof of the tea house, smashing a large hole in it. The puppet's shoulder was stuck in the roof, and it stretched out its hand to push against the roof, tearing it apart. Seeing that the puppet would soon alert the people in the capital, Li Mo no longer simply dodged. Instead he began to attack. He struck out with both hands, a fireball in one hand and an icicle in the other. Ice and fire elemental energy burst forth simultaneously. It's a dual cultivator of ice and fire. Qin Jianmei and Yunlan were shocked, especially Yunlan. He had only ever seen dual cultivators in the alternate world. Those with monstrous cultivation could not only use 2 elemental energies at the same time, but even 3 or 4. There were even some who could cultivate 5 elements at the same time. But on the Qinyuan continent there was no such thing. Could it be that the black-white double fiends weren't from the Qinyuan continent? The black demonic hands weren't affected by Li Mo's attacks, but Li Mo's attacks were quite damaging. After a few rounds of attacks, only 2 or 3 of the 8 demonic hands remained. Bodhisattva, what are you waiting for? Kill him. Qin Jianmei urged the puppet, which spat out another mouthful of red gas at Li Mo. The red gas also turned into 7 or 8 demon hands in midair. These red demon hands had sharp claws and looked even more terrifying and horrifying than the black demon hands. Bodhisattva, are you still not full? Qin Jianmei continued to urge the puppet on. At the same time she took out a stick of sandalwood incense made from her own blood essence and lit it. The puppet inhaled another stick of incense, then spat out 2 mouthfuls of red and black smoke at Li Mo. 2 streams of mist, one black and one red, transformed into 2 demonic claws that lunged at Li Mo. In the blink of an eye, Li Mo was completely surrounded by the black and red demonic claws. Qin Jianmei, don't you want your daughter's life anymore? Yun Ruoyan yelled at Qin Jianmei anxiously. Qin Jianmei hesitated for a moment before waving a hand at the demonic hands surrounding Li Mo. As she did so, the demonic hands dispersed, revealing Li Mo once more. Li Mo stood on top of the red sword aura, dressed in white and wearing a mask. His hair was neatly combed behind his head, and only then did Yun Ruoyan relax. Hand over my daughter right now and I'll consider giving you a painless death. Qin Jianmei shouted at Li Mo. Qin Jianmei's entire body was shrouded in demonic energy, and all that remained of her former gentleness was gone. Madam Qin, your daughter has a demonic bloodline in her veins. Do you want her to become a second you? Li Mo asked coldly. My daughter, like me, has a demonic bloodline in her veins. Qin Jianmei suddenly sighed again, and her fierce expression seemed to carry a trace of sadness. She said, You fell in love with the crown prince, but the crown prince has never put her in his eyes. She's fallen in love with someone she can't reach. If she can't become strong enough, she'll be doomed to a life of misery. But there's no need for that now." When Qin Jianmei said this, the miserable expression on her face was swept away. Instead, she revealed an arrogant smile. "I've spent more than a decade refining a demonic bodhisattva. Although I haven't perfected it yet, it's more than enough to deal with you mortals. Once I'm done with you, I'll continue refining it for a few more years, and once it's perfected, I'll be able to roam the abyss as I please. When that time comes, I'll gather my tribesmen and establish a kingdom that belongs to us shamans. When that time comes, we'll be able to look down on the abyss and obtain everything we want." Qin Jianmei tilted her head back and laughed heartily. Her words truly shocked everyone present. Li Mo had thought that she was simply too deeply in love with Yun Lan, and that her actions toward Lin Yueme and Madame An were the result of her hatred. What Li Mo hadn't expected, however, was that she had such wild ambitions. Originally, both Li Mo and Yun Ruian had held back, hoping to keep Qin Jianmei alive so that they could interrogate her about Lin Yueme. Now, however, it seemed that she had to be killed or the Qinyuan continent would be doomed. Hidden in the shadows, Yun Lan's eyes widened in shock at Qin Jianmei's words. As he looked at Qin Yueme, perched on the demonic puppet's shoulder, Yun Lan couldn't help but think back to the first time he'd met her. He thought that he'd long since forgotten about her, but the scene of their first meeting suddenly flashed through his mind as clear as day. It was a rainy afternoon, and Yun Lan was strolling alone on the streets when a young girl with an umbrella suddenly ran toward him. Because her line of sight was blocked by the umbrella, and because she was running in such a hurry, she bumped into Yun Lan. The young girl stumbled and almost fell. Fortunately, Yun Lan's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. He immediately grabbed the young girl's waist and pulled her into his arms. An elegant and pure young girl's face, like a newly bloomed hibiscus, quietly floated in front of Yun Lan. When the girl saw Yun Lan, her face immediately turned red, and her eyes were as panicked as a fawn's. So cute, so clean. But after more than a decade of refinement, that beautiful, untainted, cute and clean face of hers had become so malevolent that Yun Lan couldn't help but be astonished. Chapter 304. If he hadn't met Lin Yueme, Yun Lan would have followed his family's arrangements and married Madame An before taking Qin Jianmei as his concubine. 2 months after meeting Qin Jianmei, however, Yun Lan met Lin Yueme at a flower viewing party. When Lin Yueme walked leisurely out of the peach blossom forest, Yun Lan finally understood what it meant to be 10,000 years in a single glance. Ever since then, he had been deeply in love with Lin Yueme. Even when he found out that Lin Yueme already belonged to someone else, Yun Lan couldn't stop his unrequited love for her. At the time, Lin Yueme was in love with her good friend Long Yin. When the two of them met for a stroll, she often brought him along. Yun Lan could only watch helplessly as his beloved girl got together with another man, but he could do nothing about it. Just as Yun Lan thought that he would never be able to be with the girl he loved, Long Yin suddenly disappeared. In order to make Lin Yueme give up on Long Yin, the Lin family began to arrange a marriage for her. Just as Lin Yueme was in despair, Yun Lan appeared like a savior, showing his concern for her in every possible way. At first, Lin Yueme wasn't willing to marry him. Eventually, however, Yun Lan proposed to marry her and promised that he wouldn't touch her for the next 2 years. If Long Yin returned within 2 years, he would divorce her to help the two of them. At the time, Lin Yueme was being pressured by her family. Moved by Yun Lan's sincerity, she finally agreed to marry Yun Lan. Yun Lan had even threatened to break off the engagement, and the Yun family had finally agreed to take Lin Yueme as his official wife. However, the condition was that he had to marry Madame An as well. In the end, Yun Lan got what he wanted, marrying his beloved Lin Yueme. But what he didn't know was that on the night of his wedding, a young girl had been standing in a corner of the Yun estate, tears streaming down her cheeks. Yun Lan had originally planned on watching Madame Qin and Li Mo fight, but after hearing Qin Jianmei's ambitious words, a murderous glint flashed across his eyes. "It'll be easy for me to have your daughter." Li Mo turned to Qin Jianmei. "Put away this puppet right now, or you won't be able to see your daughter for the rest of your life." How arrogant! Qin Jianmei was so angry that she laughed and said, "You used my most precious person to threaten me. I can also use your most precious thing to threaten you. As soon as Qin Jianmei finished speaking, she pointed in Yun Ruoyan's direction. The demonic puppet immediately turned its head toward Yun Ruoyan and spat out 2 mouthfuls of demonic energy, one black and one red. The 2 waves of demonic energy intertwined in midair, then morphed into a dozen demonic hands that reached for Yun Ruoyan's head. Protect Miss Yun. Under Su Nan's command, the 5 ink guards, including the injured ones, surrounded Yun Ruoyan and protected her tightly. Liemo frowned. On the Qinyuan continent, Yun Ruoyan's 8th rank cultivation was considered high. But against a demonic puppet that didn't belong to the Qinyuan continent, Yun Ruoyan was still in great danger. Liemo wanted to turn around to save Yun Ruoyan, but Qin Jianmei waved her hand, and the demonic hands that had retreated to the side immediately surrounded Liemo again, attacking him ferociously. Su Nan and the other ink guards were all stronger than Yun Ruoyan, but the demonic hands were too strange and numerous. Soon Su Nan and the rest of the ink guards found themselves at a disadvantage. 2 of the Mo guards had their arms and legs grabbed by a few demonic hands. They were lifted up and sent flying. One of the demonic hands grabbed Su Nan's wrist, and the other tried to snatch away his sword. Yun Ruoyan shouted and raised the scarlet eye sword in her hand. When Su Nan and the others fought against the demonic hands, they had to infuse spiritual energy into their weapons in order to deal as little damage as possible. But when Yun Ruoyan's scarlet eye sword struck the demonic hands, a creaking sound rang out. Miss Yun, your sword can destroy demonic energy, Su Nan exclaimed. Move aside and let me do it, Yun Ruoyan replied. With the scarlet eye sword in hand, Yun Ruoyan blocked the rest of the ink guards behind her and charged out of the demonic hands as if she were chopping vegetables. By the time Yun Ruoyan had mostly destroyed the demonic hands around her, she saw that Liemo had once again been surrounded by a horde of demonic hands. Su Nan, take care of yourselves. Yun Ruoyan gritted her teeth and charged at the demonic puppet, sword in hand. You're courting death. Qin Jianmei laughed coldly as she directed the demonic puppet to swing its massive fist at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan leaped up and dodged the attack. At the same time, she swung her sword at the puppet's giant hand. The scarlet eye sword struck the puppet's hand like a hot iron on a piece of roasted meat. Clearly feeling the pain, the demonic puppet swung its arm and flung Yun Ruoyan away. Yun Ruoyan landed lightly on the ground and faced off against the puppet with the scarlet eye sword in hand. This time the puppet seemed to be interested. Without Qin Jianmei's command, it focused its attention on Yun Ruoyan. After losing the puppet's attention, the attacks of the demonic hands surrounding Liemo weakened. He looked down and saw Yun Ruoyan facing off against the golem. He couldn't help calling out, "Fool, go back. You're no match for it." But it was too late. The puppet suddenly opened its mouth twice as wide as before and spat out 2 streams of demonic energy, one red and one black. The black and red demonic energy transformed into 4 black and red demonic hands that grabbed at Yun Ruoyan's head. Yun Ruoyan swung her sword and chopped off one of the hands, but the other 3 seized the opportunity to attack her. Yun Ruoyan's neck, wrist and one ankle were all grabbed. With a loud crack, her wrist was broken. The scarlet eye sword fell to the ground, and Yun Ruoyan's entire body was lifted into the air. Surrender now or I'll kill her. Qin Jianmei threatened Liemo. Liemo had no choice but to give up all resistance and allow himself to be captured by the demonic hands. When Yun Maxiao saw that Yun Ruoyan and Liemo had been captured, he couldn't hold himself back any longer. Father, I can't wait any longer. He kicked open the door to the cottage and a yellow sword aura appeared beneath his feet as he flew toward Yun Ruoyan. When Qin Jianmei turned around and saw her father, she paused for a moment before smiling. You've come at the right time. Once you're dead, Ruoyu will have one less opponent in the Yun family. Yun Maxiao unsheathed the sword by his waist and slashed at the demonic hands around Yun Ruoyan's neck. Yun Ruoyan struggled and yelled, "Behind you." When Yun Maxiao turned around, he saw a red sword made of demonic energy stabbing towards his chest. Yun Maxiao thought he was dead for sure, but when the red demonic chi sword was inches away from his chest, it suddenly vanished into thin air. Not only that, but the demonic hand that was holding Yun Ruoyan and Liemo also disappeared. Yun Maxiao caught Yun Ruoyan and landed on the ground with Liemo. On the other side, Qin Jianmei looked down at the tip of the sword that had pierced through her heart and into her body. Her eyes widened. She turned around in disbelief, only to see Yunlan's cold, icy face. Jianmei, how did you end up like this? Yunlan's voice was cold, filled with disappointment and heartlessness. How did I end up like this? Qin Jianmei looked at Yunlan and suddenly laughed. How did I end up like this? Qin Jianmei repeated these words as she felt the cold blade of the sword slowly graze her heart. Then abruptly it pulled away. As the light faded away, darkness enveloped her. Qin Jianmei felt that she had fallen into a pitch-black space that was silent and devoid of light. Hit her, hit her. She's a demon. Suddenly, a child's voice rang out and an image slowly unfolded. In the image, a group of children surrounded a little girl and berated her. She's from the shamanic tribe and shamanic tribesmen are all demons. We won't play with her, we'll ignore her. The children began to leave, leaving the little girl crying quietly against the wall. Just as the little girl was about to cry, a middle-aged man appeared in front of her. When the little girl raised her head and saw the middle-aged man, large droplets of tears flowed down her cheeks. Daddy, we're not demons. Daddy, go tell them that I'm not a demon. However, the middle-aged man did not console the little girl. The man reached out and slapped the little girl's face. How many times have I told you? Don't tell anyone that we're from the shamanic tribe. Why did you still say it? Now we're going to move again. We're going to be homeless again. The man roughly pulled the little girl up from the ground and dragged her all the way away. The image slowly disappeared and another image unfolded. It was a small bridge on the surface of a lake. On the bridge stood a handsome youth and a beautiful girl. Jianmei, you like me, don't you? The youth asked the girl. I. The girl lowered her head under the youth's gaze. You definitely like me. The youth did not wait for the girl to finish before asking, otherwise, why would you blush the moment you see me? Do you blush when you see other men? I don't. The girl continued to lower her head, not looking at her plain dress. You don't what? The boy smiled and pressed. You don't like me or you don't blush. I don't. The girl's ears were red as she nervously pinched the hem of her dress. However, the youth smiled as he held her hand and said, Jianmei, if you like me, how about I marry you? However, with your status, I'm afraid you can only be a concubine if you marry me. Are you willing? Chapter 305. The girl blushed and pursed her lips. The word yes was stuck between her teeth, but she couldn't say it. However, she kept repeating in her heart, I do, I do. Stop dreaming. Just as the previous image disappeared, a man's angry voice rang out. An old man appeared in the new image. He pointed at the girl and scolded, Young Master Yun is getting married today and he's even marrying a wife and a concubine. He's long forgotten about you, so stop dreaming. No, he said he would marry me, he said it. The girl lay on the wooden table and said painfully. What is his identity and what is your identity? Don't be silly and stay at home obediently. Don't go to the Yun family and embarrass me. After the old man finished speaking, he walked towards the door with a lock in his hand. The girl looked at the old man's back and suddenly stood up. Father, please don't lock me up at home. The girl shouted as she rushed towards the door. The old man stopped the girl and wanted to push her back into the room. The girl resisted with all her might and pushed the old man to the side. Then she ran out the door. The old man stumbled and hit his head on the wall behind the door. The girl ran out of the house and ran towards the Yun manor. By the time she reached the door, it was already nightfall. The girl ran to the door but was stopped by the doorman. She begged the doorman to let her in to see young Master Yun, but the doorman just sneered at her. Our young master is very busy marrying a wife and a concubine. Miss Qin, don't come anymore. Young master won't see you even if you come, and master and madam won't be happy to see you. Don't ask for trouble, okay? The girl couldn't enter the door and the doorman didn't let her stand at the door. She could only stand in the corner and look at the Yun manor that was so close yet so far away. The Yun manor was decorated with lanterns and streamers. The bright red lanterns illuminated the Yun manor like it was in a sea of fire. Only the girl felt like she had fallen into an ice cellar. The girl sat outside the residence of Yun for the whole night. When she returned home the next day, she found her father dead in the corner of the wall behind the door. His head had been smashed open and blood was flowing everywhere. The young girl recalled that she was the one who killed her father. Her heart was already like dead ashes, and now she didn't want to live anymore. She pulled out the dagger from the old man's waist and wanted to end her life on the spot. But just as she pulled out the dagger, she suddenly saw a corner of a black book peeking out from the old man's robes. She reached out and picked up the book. What was recorded in the book was the sacrificial refining technique that he had always been curious about since he was young, but his father had never mentioned it. The girl put down the knife in her hand and began to carefully read the contents of the book. The deathly gray in her eyes gradually reignited, and the fire in her eyes burned more and more fiercely. In the end, there was even the color of blood. When the girl finished the last page of the book, she slowly put down the book and looked at her father, who had long since disappeared. This was the father who had raised her, but who had never shown her even the slightest bit of warmth. The girl bit the corner of her lips until it bled. A vicious look appeared in her eyes. She picked up the dagger by her side and slowly raised it. She closed her eyes and stabbed the dagger into the old man's chest. Ah! Qin Jianmei covered her eyes. Madame Qin, are you still not going to give up? Li Mo's voice rang out in Madame Qin's ears. In order to refine a demonic puppet, you wouldn't even spare your own father's heart. You deserve to die. Qin Jianmei covered her eyes, her body trembling. Li Mo, is this enough to destroy this demonic puppet? Yun Ruoyan asked softly. At that moment, Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan were floating in midair on their swords. Both of them pointed their swords at the demonic puppet's head, and threads of spiritual energy flowed from their fingers into it. Yun Maxiao, Yun Lan, and a few of the Mo guards were standing on the ground watching the scene unfold. Yun Lan stood with his hands behind his back. Beside him lay Qin Jianmei, who had been killed by his sword. Mother told me that demonic puppets are formed from the spiritual energy of the person who refined them, Li Mo explained to Yun Ruoyan. Li Mo explained to Yun Ruoyan that different people's psychokinesis was different in nature. Some people's psychokinesis was good while others was evil. Qin Jianmei's spiritual energy was filled with resentment. Although she was dead, all of her resentment was hidden within the demonic puppet. As long as the resentment wasn't extinguished, the puppet would continue to exist. If they wanted to completely destroy the puppet, they would have to find a way to draw out all of her resentment and then destroy it. If they couldn't, then once Qin Jianmei's resentment and the puppet completely fused, the puppet would become even more frightening. I'm currently using spiritual energy to draw out Qin Jianmei's resentment. If she can dissipate on her own, that would be best. If not, then we'll have to destroy her, Li Mo instructed. Focus your attention and help me force out all of her resentment. Perhaps you'll be able to see images of your mother. Right. Yun Ruoyan nodded, continuing to release her spiritual energy with Li Mo. Qin Jianmei, in her resentment form, was completely enveloped by Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan's spiritual energy. The images she recalled made her tremble all over, but even though she covered her eyes, they still appeared in her mind. In those images, Qin Jianmei began to refine the Buddha of the afterlife and the Bodhisattva of reincarnation, each of which contained half of her father's heart. She seemed to have found a new reason to live. She continued to visit the various families, including the Yun family, as a pillmaster. The next time Qin Jianmei saw Yun Lan, it was 2 years later. He was playing with a newborn baby boy with his wife, and he looked so happy. All of his attention was focused on his wife and the child in his arms, so much so that he didn't recognize her at first glance. Qin Jianmei looked at the woman lying on the bed. She was so beautiful that even though she was jealous, she had to admit that she was beautiful. However, the beautiful woman wasn't happy at all. Instead, she fell ill because of her depression. Afterwards, Qin Jianmei would often visit the Yun Manor and Lin Yuemei's residence as a pillmaster. Yun Lan eventually recognized her, but Qin Jianmei appeared indifferent, as if their past didn't affect her at all. In fact, this earned her Yun Lan's respect. Because of her deliberate attempts to get close to Lin Yuemei, Qin Jianmei gradually became Lin Yuemei's friend. Lin Yuemei had no one to talk to in the Yun Manor, and she began to turn Qin Jianmei into a confidant. From Lin Yuemei's confidences, Qin Jianmei learned that she didn't actually like Yun Lan, and that Lin Yueme had always been in love with a man named Long Yin. She even learned that the Yun family had secretly drugged Lin Yueme's tea in order to have an heir, causing her to have a night of passion with Yun Lan. Lin Yueme didn't know how Qin Jianmei felt when she heard this. What she had been longing for was worthless in the eyes of another woman. Since that was the case, why did she have to suffer like this? With this thought in mind, Qin Jianmei unwittingly placed the mother-child parasite poison in Lin Yueme's medicine. She didn't directly kill Lin Yueme, because Lin Yueme was the reason she was allowed to visit the Yun manor. The scene quickly changed. One day Lin Yueme told her that the man she loved had returned. It turned out that he hadn't left without saying goodbye, but he had been forced to leave because of an important matter. When the man left, he didn't have time to say goodbye to her. Instead, he gave Yun Lan a letter and asked her to pass it to him. However, Yun Lan secretly hid the letter. Lin Yueme flew into a rage and quarreled with Yun Lan. Then she abandoned her young child and left on her own, never to return. Qin Jianmei knew that Lin Yueme must have eloped with Long Yin, but no one knew where they had gone. Yun Lan didn't search for her, nor did he announce it. Almost no one knew that Lin Yueme had gone missing except for Qin Jianmei. In the time that Lin Yueme had left, Qin Jianmei had become Yun Lan's understanding flower, comforting him greatly. Just as Qin Jianmei felt that Yun Lan was gradually developing feelings for her, Lin Yueme had returned. Yun Lan once again threw Qin Jianmei to the back of his mind, focusing all his attention on Lin Yueme. Lin Yueme's body was extremely weak, and Qin Jianmei was in charge of nursing her. Then she discovered that Lin Yueme was nearly 2 months pregnant. Qin Jianmei secretly told Yun Lan about this, but Yun Lan told her not to spread the news and to pretend that he knew nothing. Qin Jianmei watched as Yun Lan treated a woman who didn't love him, betrayed him, and was even pregnant with someone else's child, while ignoring her love for Lin Yueme. All the jealousy in her heart turned into hatred for Lin Yueme. Again and again she increased the dosage of the brood mother parasite. Finally, in the first year of Yun Ruoyan's life, when she was a year old, the brood mother parasite exploded in Lin Yueme's body. During this time, Yun Lan found physician Tsing to treat Lin Yueme, but Qin Jianmei used him to threaten physician Tsing into poisoning Lin Yueme, causing her to die soon after. Not long after Lin Yueme's death, Qin Jianmei married Yun Lan as his concubine. Qin Jianmei thought that her wish had finally been fulfilled, but not long after Yun Lan married 2 concubines in succession, each of whom bore a striking resemblance to Lin Yueme. Yun Lan quickly forgot about Qin Jianmei. Only then did she realize that Yun Lan's heart would never belong to her. From then on, Qin Jianmei devoted herself to refining the demonic puppet, rarely leaving her cottage. A decade passed, and by this time, everyone had almost forgotten about her existence. It was only when Yun Ruoyu was grounded at home for offending Yun Ruoyan that Qin Jianmei once again entered the limelight. By then Qin Jianmei was on the verge of completing her demonic puppet refinement. With great ambition, she had hoped to make up for all the years she had spent in Yun Ruoyu's care. She had brought Yun Ruoyu along with her to refine the demonic puppet, giving her a beautiful blueprint. However, all of this had been shattered by Yun Ruoyan and Liu Mo, and she had ended up in her current predicament. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.